What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights, where me, your boy, EJ Stewart, does 2 live stream shows per morning. 1 in the morning, not the morning, 2 live stream shows per day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. This one starting at 8 a.m. The other one later starting at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. is going to be really exciting because on Monday, as we start today, we will have WFAN's Evan Roberts from Evan and Tiki joining me live here on 40 Days and 40 Nights to talk Mets spring training and everything else happening around in New York sports. So that will be a lot of fun programming, though, for those who came on and heard me last week. I said that Zach Gelb will be on Tuesday. That has been now moved to Wednesday. So Zach Gelb will be on Wednesday night as well. So we got 2 awesome guests. I'm cooking up a third potentially for this week as well that I'm really excited about. So Evan Roberts comes up later today. But this morning we got a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a fun one because USA, USA, USA. Team USA wins the gold medal in men's hockey, beating the Canadians 2-1 in overtime. Jack Hughes, the hero for the Americans, with the golden goal in 3-on-3 overtime hockey. So we'll break that down. We're going to, as Chance the Rapper famously said, let's do that hockey. We're going to do that hockey this morning. I'm really excited to talk about that. Awesome game to watch. I didn't get to watch it live, and then I watched it again on the replay last night. Watched the full game on Peacock. It was an awesome classic game. Can't wait to talk about it. So we'll talk about the men's U.S. hockey gold medal and whether or not this represents a shift for U.S. men's hockey moving forward. And then we'll talk some Knicks as well. Knicks got 2 W's over the weekend and back-to-backs coming off of that stinker against the Detroit Pistons on Thursday night. Knicks beat the Rockets on Monday in dramatic fashion. Both games were pretty dramatic. Beat the Rockets on Monday in dramatic fashion in an 18-point comeback in the fourth quarter. Also hold on late to beat the Chicago Bulls last night, so they win 2 straight. After the first game, though, I do want to talk about a exchange that happened between Shaq and Karl-Anthony Towns. Because, you know, after the Knicks game, they have the Inside the NBA, and they have an interview with Karl-Anthony Towns. And I think a lot of this is maybe much to do about nothing and being blown out of proportion, but I'm curious what you think in terms of whether or not Shaq was in the wrong, or whether or not this was some issue with Karl-Anthony Towns not realizing that how important he is to the Knicks. I think we could all chill and say this is a misunderstanding, but maybe you guys will feel differently. So I'm excited to talk about that as well. Also, a new name has entered the chat when it comes to the MVP voting, and it is LeBron James himself who is actually given the cosign for MVP. So a little surprising there, especially given who he is referring to, especially considering they've had maybe some issues in the past. So we'll talk about the latest MVP candidate to enter the chat. And then we also had a massive college basketball game, Duke beat Michigan over the weekend in what was a mega showdown. Very excited to give you guys my thoughts on that as well. So if we have time, I kind of want to get to these Love is Blind and Traders takes. I told you guys this show will delve into some reality TV. We're entering in a crucial week for both shows. Traders enters its finale. Love is Blind has 2 more episodes before its finale. These last 3 episodes that dropped last week were bananas. So if I can get to it, if we have time, we'll get to that. If not, maybe we'll save that for later. But this will be a fun one. 40 Days, 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart. Again, streaming live, multiple spots, including streaming live right now on YouTube, New Generation Media. Shout out to the folks watching me on YouTube. Love y'all as always. Also streaming live on X, EJ_Stewart. Make sure you follow me on X where I am streaming live right now. Also streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ. Be sure to follow me there. And of course, like I say, every episode gets podcasted of 40 Days and 40 Nights. So if you missed any episodes from last week or any episodes from this series, you can always search New Generation Podcast Network, where you can catch these shows plus all the other shows we do, including New Generation Hero Talk, which we actually recorded an episode last night. So shout out to my guys, Shamari Stewart, Kendall Stewart. Of course, Kendall comes on weekly. Shamari's been on 40 Days and 40 Nights already. I'm sure he'll make another appearance before this one wraps up. And we did a Hero Talk episode talking about various things, but mostly about Daredevil Born Again, which comes up in a couple of weeks. March 4th is the release date for season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. A lot of commentary from the showrunner about what to expect from season 2 and season 3, which I assume will come out next year. They've already shot, or they're in the presence of still shooting season 3. We got plenty of details about what to expect from this show moving forward. So we talked about Daredevil. We talked about stuff around the X-Men. We had a good conversation. So if you guys want to check that out, head over to our podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network, to get that episode. That episode's also been posted on YouTube, so you can watch it in multiple spots. So a lot of fun stuff happening here in New Generation Media as we wind down the end of 40 Days and 40 Nights. This begins week 7 of 8 weeks. And we're now counting down less than 10 days away from the end of 40 Days and 40 Nights. Could be a sad time, but let's celebrate it. No reason to be sad. This will be a real fun end to this journey that I've been on doing these shows, 2 live streams per day. So let's get the ball rolling, man. I want to talk about what happened with Team USA. Again, shout out to the Americans. They got it done. They got it done, and they deserve a lot of credit because I've been one of those folks who, I'll be honest, and I've said this on Maggie and Perloff's show, so I've been on the record for it. I was skeptical whether or not I would see this moment anytime soon. It just seems like when it comes to the U.S. facing Canada, it always ends the same way. U.S. valiant effort, fighting like hell, but the Canadians, too much overall talent, too much precision, and eventually they crack through and they win. And to be honest, watching this game last night, it felt like that was how this game was going to go. To be honest, I thought that the U.S. getting an early goal, you said, oh, wow, okay, maybe this is the start of something different. But it just felt like after that point, the Canadians really dominated for most of this game. Matt Boldy scores early on in the game on what was, both of these goals were pretty spectacular. Between Boldy and Jack Hughes. I feel like because Jack Hughes scored the winning goal, Boldy's goal kind of got lost in the shuffle for how ridiculous it was, him splitting 2 defenders, the way he did, lifting the puck in the air and then getting past the goalie. Phenomenal stuff. So Boldy scores early on. You think, oh, okay, here we go. This is going to be very different, right? And then, again, pretty much the rest of the game, Canada's getting opportunity after opportunity. They're pressing the tempo. The U.S. unable to really play much into their own offensive zone, and their defense really on their heels. And this is where I think a lot of credit has to go to the U.S. goalie. Connor Hellebuck, again, I don't think he'll get lost in shuffle as much as Boldy, but one of the all-time great hockey Olympic goalie performances. I mean, he saves 42 goals on 42 shots, and some of these were quite remarkable. The stick save was insane. There were plenty of other glove saves that he made. I mean, he was awesome, absolutely awesome. And considering he is somebody who has had some postseason failures, has had some postseason struggles with the Winnipeg Jets, to see him show up in this moment in a massive game, in a game that the U.S., they had to get. I've said it a bunch. If you're going to make me and other folks really believe that the U.S. is really close the gap on Canada when it comes to hockey, you have to find a way to win a gold medal. You have to find a way to beat these guys in international play. And they just haven't been able to do it. Not when the chips have been down and everything's been on the line. We saw that with the Four Nations Cup last year, which you could say, well, it's an exhibition. They didn't treat it like an exhibition. They treated that joint like it was a real thing. And you saw it, obviously, 12 years ago when Sidney Crosby hit the game-winning goal to eliminate the Americans in the gold medal game. So we've seen this story before. And when you see Canada start to, again, get these opportunities, and Hellebuck just wasn't going to allow them to make to score on him. He was phenomenal. Now, there was one play that's going to, I think, live down probably in Canada in infamy. And it's Nathan McKinnon, who had a, no pun intended, golden opportunity to win the game. He gets the puck on a wide open net and just whiffs. And my brother said this when I was talking to him a little bit about it yesterday, and I felt like maybe you could feel the weight of the game start to wear on Canada as the game went on, because then they started getting some dumb penalties. They were able to kill the penalty, and the U.S. actually ended up giving it back to them. But they just seemed a little rattled as it got to the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, and the score was still tied. I think they thought that they had outplayed the Americans, and ironically, McKinnon, the guy that misses a wide open net, of course, the talking cheese has something to say. He comes on and is like, well, I think you guys need to tell the difference who the better team was. I'm like, well, your team lost, and they lost in large part because of you. If you put the puck behind the net, behind Hellebuck in the net in a wide open situation, the game doesn't go the way it did. Connor McDavid, who's a mega star in hockey, he had opportunities. He had a breakaway where I think he played it too cute and did too many dekes and ends up crashing essentially right into Hellebuck, doesn't even get a shot off. But still, the goaltender for the Americans was special. Special game, special performance. And then you go into that overtime on a 3-on-3 atmosphere. I'm not going to complain about it because the Americans won. Part of me wonders if 3-on-3 hockey should be settled in a gold medal game in your first overtime. I know those are the rules that have been put. It's been the rules for this entire, knockout stage. So it's not like this is new. The U.S. had already won in this situation. The Canadians had won in this situation. So it's not like this is, again, new. It's super exciting. It's super fun to watch these guys flying up and down the ice with so few people. I mean, you can really see someone like Connor McDavid's athleticism and his quickness, in that kind of atmosphere. I felt like the Americans better. They needed to score immediately, or else he was definitely going to score and win the game. That to me was very clear. They couldn't handle him open space. But I personally wonder if that's the best way to, declare a gold medal winner for hockey with 3-on-3. I don't know. I guess you can argue it's a long tournament. They're all playing in the middle of a professional season, and maybe say, hey, we don't want overtime games going into 2, 3, 4 overtimes. Part of me wonders, do you play a half of it maybe down to 5, half of it at 5-on-5, then maybe go down to 4-on-4 for the second half of overtime, and then maybe the third overtime is 3-on-3. I go back and forth about whether or not that is the way I think a gold medal game should end. I'm glad it doesn't end on obviously penalty shots, something like that. But I kind of question whether or not that's the right way to end. But sure enough, again, Jack Hughes, the hero of the Jersey Devils. I don't got any love for the New Jersey Devils as a Ranger fan, but shout out to Jack Hughes for coming up super clutch. And again, a game that, shout out to Coach Sullivan who did not shy away from any of the stuff when it comes to 1980. We know how important 1980 is because of the Miracle on Ice, and it kind of, because the U.S. haven't won a gold medal since, it just feels, the weight of it is a lot. You feel it. The fact that that's the last time the U.S. won a gold medal. Again, I'm not as super into hockey as I am most other professional sports, but sometimes I forget that fact. I kind of forgot that fact before going into this week. I was like, oh my God, that's right. They have not won since that gold medal game, which is why it's become, well, that was obviously the Miracle on Ice was the semifinal. Then of course they won the gold medal game in the next game. But that whole run in 1980 is so iconic, in large part because they haven't won since. And then you think, wow, they haven't won any at all, considering all the NHL players now that are American. And you think they would have found their way to something, especially once the Americans started playing, the NHL players started getting, you think, okay, they're going to get one of these gold medals, but they have not won one since. So I love the fact that Coach Sullivan was pretty much listen, we know what time it is, we know what's at stake, and we know the legacy of U.S. hockey. And the fact that we have not won a gold medal since 1980, we've only won 2 in our lifetime. And 1980 is great, but we gotta stare this down the barrel and say we're the next ones. We're the next ones. He said that 1980 team inspired a generation. Now this is your opportunity to inspire a generation. So the question I have then, which is they accomplished their goal and win the gold medal, is will this inspire a new generation? Will this really turn the tide for the U.S. when it comes to hockey? And will the Americans now, could they supplant Canada, or can they at the very least be seen as an equal to Canada moving forward, or is this kind of a one-time deal? And that's something obviously time is going to tell. But I will say I think that the iconic nature of this win helps. I almost think if this was 4-1 blowout, which seems inconceivable considering it's Canada, but if it was a game like that, maybe it becomes kind of you don't remember it quite as much. whereas this one is going to be kind of unforgettable because of how they won and them winning in overtime. And I think a lot of kids growing up are going to see the clips of Jack Hughes' goal. They're going to see the clips of Hellebuck standing on his head, making these incredible saves, and they're going to remember this one. Like, if you're a young hockey player, you say, I'm going to sit down in front of the TV and watch this one, man, on an early morning, on a Sunday morning. If you're in the Northeast, it's a blizzard, for those who don't know. So you're probably like, this was awesome. I mean, this was definitely a great introduction to hockey. So I hope it's the case. I feel like Olympic sports overall don't carry this as much weight as they did, obviously, in the past. And the Winter Olympics, particularly, I think it's definitely taken a major stumble. But I think yesterday's game, I keep saying last night because I watched it last night, but yesterday's game was, again, a game for the H's. So congrats to Team USA. And again, congrats to the coaching staff. They put together a good roster. There were a lot of question marks about guys that maybe should have been on this team or guys that were left off. But it felt like this was a team that defense was solid enough to get the job done. They definitely put Hellebuck out there and said, hey, you got to make a lot of saves to win this one. But they were pretty good on face-offs, and they obviously they killed every penalty. So you have to look at how they performed throughout this tournament and say that they did a great job. So I want to ask the chat, do you guys feel like U.S. is creeping up on Canada? Is this now I want to fix my focus. I think I focused a little bad. Let me see. There you go. I want to be crystal clear for y'all. No, I'm curious. Do you guys think that this is a turning point for Team USA and U.S. hockey? Like, can U.S. hockey become what Canada is? My instinct tells me we'll always be second fiddle. My instinct tells me that we have so many other sports that are still so popular here in the U.S., primarily, obviously, American football. That does this shift and do now the best athletes that we have in the U.S. decide, you know what, I'm going to do that hockey. I'm going to join a youth hockey team, a youth hockey league, and I'm going to work on my skills. Because I think that at the end of the day, that's the difference. The Americans, I mean, we have the best athletes in the world, in my opinion. And I don't mean to make this, I kind of joke with the USA. I'm not that USA patriot kind of guy. But I will say that I do think we have the best athletes in the world. And the reason why I feel like the Americans have been unable to supplant Canada or be equal to Canada is because their best athletes are playing hockey. Like, the guys who, for them, are playing hockey, for us, are probably playing football or playing basketball. Now, they have a lot of guys playing basketball now, too, which has become a whole thing. But they have phenomenal athletes, but hockey is their number one sport. So they're going to hockey. So they put together squads that are all-star squads, legitimately, because of how much the sport has influence there. The problem with the U.S. is, as great as hockey is here, we have awesome hockey. We have awesome college hockey, awesome youth hockey. Some of these guys who have played, it's great to kind of hear the stories about the U.S. hockey program that's been, that they've developed for decades, and how a lot of these kids came up from that program. And this is a huge culmination for them to win this gold medal. This all really culminated in this moment. Like, they, the Boldies and the Hugheses and a lot of these young guys who played big in this game, like, a lot of it was them preparing us for this moment. You wonder, do we get more of these insane, awesome athletes deciding, you know what, I'm going to put down the football, I'm going to put down the basketball, I'm going to put down the baseball bat, and I'm going to do that hockey. I'm going to play hockey. I want to learn this game. This game looks super fun. I don't watch hockey on a regular basis. I usually really lock in playoff time normally, especially if the Rangers are in it. I watch for the first round on. If the Rangers aren't in it, which they damn sure won't be in it this year, it'll probably be later in the playoffs, maybe conference finals and Stanley Cup finals. But this game was exciting. I kind of sometimes forget, oh yeah, hockey is a really awesome sport to watch. Like, it's fast-paced. There's not a lot of goals being scored, but it's so fast-paced. Guys are up and down. Guys are hitting. This was a physical game. This was definitely even in a 2-1 game where the game was 1-1 in regulation, this was aesthetically pleasing to the eye in terms of just being a fun entertainment product. The question, though, for me, in terms of whether or not U.S. can supplant Canada or becoming equal, is will these great athletes we have in the U.S., will they decide that I will decide to go play hockey instead of those other sports. Now the thing is, we have, as you probably know, a lot of people here, so we don't need everybody. Like we can lose some basketball players and some hockey players and some other sport guys, and we'll be fine. But will we have enough to really match Canada? Would be my big question. Again, my instinct tells me no, we'll be second fiddle, but I do think this maybe marks a change in terms of the U.S. really being firmly the second best team in the world. Right now, they're the best right now. They want the gold medal. But you know what I mean in terms of talent. Like, because there have been years where they haven't been close to this. So the fact that they got back to the U.S., the gold medal game, and they were able to win the gold medal against unarguably the most talented team in the world, that does say a lot. And I think that does speak to maybe a shift from that standpoint. But man, I was really excited to see this win. When I saw that they won, I was really excited. I was annoyed that I was, because I was up late the night before, I overslept and wasn't able to watch the game live. But then watching the game live, it really had appreciation for how the game went, even watching it in a rewind, because it was an awesome game. It's good morning to you guys. EJ Stewart here, 40 days, 40 nights. You got John Lee in the chat saying, yo, good morning, John Lee. What's happening? Good to see you in the chat as always. Always appreciate it. Good friend Rob DeRay in Instagram saying, go outside, give us a weather update. I don't think my camera would work in the outdoor elements. I don't think that would work out. It's obviously a blizzard outside. That is what I've seen. I just saw, I had the tweet up, but then I left. But I just saw it was, I want to say it was like 11, 12 inches here in around the city. Some places got like 20 inches, like on like Long Island or like upstate, I think. It's a lot of snow. I didn't go out there this morning. Andrea walked Lita this morning. Apparently Lita, my lovely doggy, she loves the snow, by the way. If you go to my Instagram, in fact, actually I won't do it because I don't want to crash this. I don't want to crash my thing. Part of me is like, should I show you guys a video? I'm gonna do it. Why not? Why the hell not? Let's do it now. I'm gonna try to see if I can post this video and show you guys Lita in the snow. She is a big fan. She loves the snow. I don't think this is the case for most little doggies, but she is not one of them. She is one of them who definitely appreciates the snow, loves the snow. And if I can, I'm trying to see if I can airdrop this myself so I can play this to you guys, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's cooperating right now. Let's see. That didn't work. Okay, let's try it one more time. See, airdrop. I always love doing this kind of thing live, right? Oh, that's why I was trying to do it on my iPhone. Duh. Which is not my iPhone, so it's it's actually my iPad. All right, so I got my video. So let's see if you guys can watch Lita in the snow. Which I don't know why I didn't realize it's something you guys would definitely want to see, probably. All right, so I'm dragging this over. Let's see if this is gonna work. Oh, it looks like it will. All right, let's see. See if we got this. Let's see. She's the best. Actually, I think I don't know if my mic was even on. It says unmuted, so I think maybe I was muted. But what I was saying during that time was, oh, look at that little doggy. She's so cute, wasn't she? Was that not the cutest little doggy? As she's running around in her raincoat because her winter coat no longer, the Velcro no longer works. We have two winter coats for her. Both winter coats, the Velcro has completely deteriorated. So it's like she walked for 2-3 minutes and like her jacket's half hanging off of her. For really cold days, we can probably get away with it. When it's snow like this, it's not really helpful. Probably have a jacket that's not attached to her. so we had to go to raincoat last night, and I think we did this more. I don't know what Andrea did, but a raincoat last night in the snowstorm. But she seemed to love it. I mean, she literally went down and put her face legitimately in the snow. Like, that's how much she loves the snow. Now, apparently this morning, because there's so much snow, that there's a lot of like there's huge globs of snow on trees, from apartment buildings, from balconies. So they're randomly falling because it's winter. It's obviously windy and it's cold and everything. So that she's not loving. Like, she's not loving the fact that now, like, there's like random snow blobs that just randomly falling off of buildings or on trees. So apparently this morning walk wasn't so great, but she is someone that typically loves the snow. We had a fun time. I didn't have, well, I say we. The snow was pretty rough for me last night. I don't know if anybody was outside in the Northeast. If you were, like, snow is like splashing in your face. It's wet. It's heavy, and it was coming down hard. It was coming down sideways. So it wasn't like, oh, this is falling kind of beautifully down. This was like ice shards hitting you in the face. So Lita's cuteness was able to allow me to overcome some of that. I'll play this video one more time. Lita's cuteness. There they go. Now I'm muting myself. There's a little baby. Look at the little baby. Yeah, now you guys can hear me as I do this commentary. No, but the ice shards in the snow coming at my face was pretty aggressive. So I didn't love that. But actually getting to see Lita do her thing in the snow, that part was awesome. So I did have fun from that standpoint. So that's the best weather update I can give you, Rob. I can't give you an update out there yet because I've not gone outside today. But I was out there late last night. It was probably around 10 o'clock, so the snow had already greatly accumulated. But what I love about going out with Lita during this time, and usually based on just like our cadence for when we actually end up doing these kind of walks, I always end up missing like a lot of when the snow is like just firmly on the ground. Like typically, like I feel like most snowstorms typically are like overnight into the morning, and I usually don't do the early morning walk. So that's Andrea. So Andrea is usually the one that gets to see Lita out there the first time where the snow is still not gross and disgusting. So this is actually not my first walk with her, but one of the few times I got to actually do the first walk with Lita after the snow is officially come down and stuck. And she was having an absolute ball. Absolute ball. See, Andrea always says she's a trip when the snow is out. She loves it so much. And usually when I get her, she's still liking it, but it's not as cute when it's like brown and yellow snow. It's like, hey, get out of that. This is not cute when I'm doing this. But seeing her when the snow is untouched, unfettered, and she had the whole neighborhood to herself because nobody else is walking outside. I'm like, are you guys not walking your dog before you go to sleep? I'm like, it's I know it's snowy, but they do need to go to the bathroom. I hope you guys are taking care of your doggies. But no, she loved it. She absolutely loved it. So that's the best I got for you, Rob, for a weather update. But Rob seems to be excited. He's already saying Lita the GOAT. Yep, she is in fact the GOAT. #1 segment in the history of 40 days and 40 nights. Appreciate you, EJ. That's what I got for you. I'm glad I did that little audible. Because I was like, I actually didn't forgot I had this video. I was like, wait, I got this video. I should have had this ready to go for today. This would be a perfect video to play today. So I'm glad we had it. Glad we were able to show Lita's fun time in the snow. Ostrich eyes. We're talking about Team USA. Is this bad for U.S. soccer? LOL. It's a great question. Because we're asking the question about the U.S. winning a gold medal in men's hockey. And this has been a moment that they've been waiting for legitimately 40 plus years. Like, this is like not a joke. 4 decades for this, and like you thought 1980. Oh wow, this is like going to spark something. And it did inspire a generation. We had a generation of great American players, and they became staples and stars in the NHL. But it did not generate future gold medals or future international success. It's just a fact. It didn't. So this now was the next step for U.S. hockey. Was we got to win a gold medal, man. Like, we got to get it done. We have too many stars not to get it done. No, Canada's great, but it's a tournament. Like, somebody should be able to knock them out. Or we should be able to beat them at least one time in one of these situations. So they finally did. So now the question becomes, I keep saying, will now some of the best athletes in the world that we have here in the U.S., will they decide when they're young, you know what, instead of playing basketball, football, baseball, I'll go do that hockey. And Oscar Eyes makes a good point saying, is this bad for soccer? Because that's essentially the same question we have about U.S. soccer, is how does U.S. soccer tap into some of these incredible athletes we have here in the U.S.? How do you get those kids that are playing American football and baseball and basketball to decide, you know, I'll go play some soccer? And in many ways, hockey and soccer, hockey has been better than U.S. soccer. Like, again, U.S. hockey's arguably been the second best country in the world for several years now. Is U.S. soccer the second best? I was going to joke, are they the second best country in North America? That's unfair. We definitely are. But I mean, in terms of world ranking, is U.S. are they top 15? Even that's like very questionable at this point. So, and there's been all these conversations about, oh, would the World Cup coming here make a difference when it came here in the 90s? Would the Landon Donovan era make a difference when those kids came up, Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey and all the guys that came up during that generation, Tim Howard? We've been waiting for that success on the world stage for U.S. soccer, and for that success to translate to these kids and these U.S. players going overseas and having great success playing in Europe and some of these other high-profile teams, and we just haven't quite seen that yet. So is hockey shown that they could be the best in the world and they could stand up to Canada and be number one, where both hockey and the U.S. are probably fighting for what I don't like to call these kids the leftover, because there's some kids that just grow up and they just love hockey. That's what they want to do. And some kids, same thing with soccer. But when it comes to again recruiting these great athletes, is hockey going to be able to pluck a little more from soccer and say, hey, come over here, play this sport. This is great. It's a good question. I don't think it's going to hurt quite as much, only because I think where hockey is popular in the U.S. on the youth level, it will remain popular. And it's probably in areas where soccer isn't quite as popular, because soccer is a sport that, while it's not always beautiful and warm weather in England or most of the European countries, but obviously because it's an outdoor sport, typically warm weather states, warm weather cities, you would think would be your hotbeds for youth soccer, because they can play 12 months a year. As much as I hate the idea of youth sports and kids having to play a sport 12 months a year and no breaks and they don't play other different things, I think the specialization of sports on the youth level is really bad, and I think it's actually leading to a lot of these youth injuries. I can go into a whole diatribe about that, but I do think that because that is the nature of how we are developing athletes right now, which is we are telling them to only play youth sports for one sport and to specialize it and then play it for 12 months a year. It's almost impossible to play soccer 12 months a year, unless you literally say, in certain places. If you live in New York City, if you live in Michigan, if you live in Seattle, if you live in some of these cold weather cities where in winter time or even in the fall, it kind of becomes untenable to be outside for very long periods of time. Are those places where you would have got great soccer players anyway? Like, I don't think so, but I don't know. It's a question, and it's a great question. But so my thing is, I would assume that those are places though where there will be hockey. Like you can play hockey anywhere. Hockey technically should be a 12-month sport too, because of course it's technically in ice hockey is an indoor sport. But then of course there's roller hockey and other different things where you can still play hockey even if it's not on ice. I would expect that this is not going to impact so much maybe the warm weather places where those kids can still play soccer 12 months a year and they want to be more outdoors. And in the Minnesotas of the world and the Bostons of the world where we're getting the great hockey players from the U.S., I would also then assume that those places that are good at hockey, maybe you'll get more kids during the winter that will say, hey, you know what, I'll actually want to pick up a hockey stick instead of playing basketball this winter. Or I'll pick up a hockey stick instead of playing some other sport during the winter. But what the problem is, these kids are having to choose, again, if they're going to choose a sport, well, I got to do this 12 months a year. This is not like, oh, I'm just going to flip over. Like, you can do that. Like, there's some kids, of course, that do that. But it's just, it's in order to be great, and in order to get seen, in order to get scholarships, in order to be a part of the scene of whatever sport you want to get developed in, it's becoming a lot harder to be a multi-sport kid, which really sucks. Like, I grew up in, like, I was an elementary school student in like the late 90s and middle school and high school during the mid to early 2000s. I was a basketball player by trade. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's the best way I can describe it. Like basketball was my sport. Now, like, I played pickup everything. Because because you and your friends have all different interests. I told you guys a story about my friend who was a hockey player. Shout out to my good friend Michael Siegel, who was a great athlete, by the way. He played all sports. He was great at basketball, he was great at hockey, and he was great at baseball, legitimately great. And I told you a story about how, like, you know, he was good at hockey, and when he wanted to have fun playing some hockey, I couldn't skate and didn't know how to play hockey. So he'd be like, all right, well, you just put on this goalie equipment. Let me just shoot at you for like 2 hours. And sometimes that was the fun we had on a random day in the summer when there's nothing to do. And, you know, I was at his house because his mom was my babysitter. And we would just spend, again, an hour, 2 hours where I'm being a goalie. I put that in quotation marks. I think this is more of my good friend Mike having fun, just shooting shots at me. But, like, again, like, he was fortunate. Like, he got to play multiple sports. Like, he was on our elementary school basketball team, and then he also played travel baseball, and then he also played hockey. Are there kids like that now? Like, I was not one of those kids. Like, I played basketball mostly. I played pickup everything, but I really never got the opportunity to really sit down and really say, yo, I want to, like, and I really didn't want to. So I don't even want to make it sound like, oh, there's something with my parents, but like, oh, like I want to go and like play hockey for a year, or they put me in baseball and I hated it because I was so bad. Which part of me is like, I think back on it sometimes and I'm like, maybe I should, like, I wish maybe my parents would have like let me like fight through that better and not like just said, oh, you don't like it because you're bad? Okay, cool. Like, go back and play more basketball. Part of me is like, something about adversity and being a kid and being like, hey, like, you're bad at this, but like if you practice, you can get good. At that point, I was just in my youth age, and we're talking about 8 or 9 years old. I had played so much basketball. I was so advanced in basketball compared to baseball that I think it just felt like if I gave a lot of attention to baseball, maybe it would have been like me starting literally from the bottom. So how many years would it take me to get good? But sometimes I'm like, oh man, like I go back. I wish I would have played more baseball. Like the second I got hit with the ball in that batter's box, I was like, I don't like this. And then the other thing, too, I always joke was, like, I watched too much pro baseball because my eye was actually too good. Like, I was not swinging at anything outside the plate. If you ever watch Little League, if the ball's in the same zip code, they call it a strike. So that always was rough because they're like, yo, swing the bat. And I'm like, the ball is above, like, it's not in the strike zone. Like, I watch enough baseball to know what the strike zone looks like for even a kid my age. But obviously, kids my age, like who's going to be able to hit a strike zone for a kid who's 4'8" or whatever I am at 8, 9 years old, right? So 10 years old. So like for me, and at that time, it was like my brain just didn't function correctly. I was also just didn't have the hand-eye coordination to swing the bat very well. My fielding was awful. Like, it just was not good. So I very quickly moved on. So I really was almost more like these kids today that are 12 months a year playing only one sport. But I did dabble in football in high school. And I played pickup everything. Because that was a time where kids still, not as much as maybe the previous generation, like generation, X and stuff, but my kids still went outside a lot. Because their internet was there, but it wasn't quite as reliable, and you couldn't just live on there forever. Like, it wasn't a fun experience. You were going to be there for 10 hours, because it would probably be too slow, dial up, screw up. So it wasn't necessarily the funnest experience to say, I'm going to be on the internet for 10 hours. Now, you can do that and be totally fine. So it's a long answer, obviously, to Ostracize. Shout out to Ostracize for watching on X. Appreciate you. But yeah, I mean, I think that for U.S. soccer, I don't think it's a good thing, but I don't necessarily think it has to be bad, is my point, is my long answer to that. Because, again, assuming kids in warm weather, places want to play in warm weather and do outdoor things, I'm sure they want to go outside and play soccer still. And soccer does have the showcase coming up of the World Cup, which may end up kind of, blowing this out of the water in a short amount of time. Like, where people kind of just forget that this happened, which would be bad for, obviously, U.S. hockey. U.S. hockey probably wants to play these clips on a loop for the next however many months and be like, hey, young kids, you could win a gold medal. You could be Jack Hughes. You could be Boldy. You could be Hellebuck. You could be these stars that are now, I mean, they're immortalized. They're American icons now, moving forward. They won a freaking gold medal in hockey for the first time since the Miracle on Ice. There is no better accomplishment for an American hockey player than what happened yesterday. So they definitely have a good selling point. Now for the U.S., I know for soccer, man, I kind of wish I wouldn't wish doing another 40 days and 40 nights is how exhausting it is, but I do would love to, and I know I'll be on a mic. If worse than the worst, I'll be here, and I'll have my shows on the fan. But I would love to be on a daily show, like talking about the World Cup, because I can't wait for that. That's going to be bonkers, man. And that is also going to have a ton of impact in terms of American soccer players. And if the U.S. has a good showing, if they could, the round of 16 and quarterfinals kind of been their peak in terms of how far they could go. They can find a way to sneak into that semifinal somehow. That to me has to be their goal. I don't think it's likely, but I think that has to be their goal. That has to be what they're searching for. They have a pretty good group in terms of the grouping. They should definitely get out of group play. So once you get out of group play, now it's a one-game elimination, so anything can happen. You get to the situation where you're in the semifinal. That means you win the round of 16, you win the round in the quarterfinals. Like that's, you win the first round game. Like now you're talking about you really have an opportunity to do something special and really change the landscape of soccer. That's what it's going to take. It's 40 days, 40 nights. Your boy EJ Stewart here. I'm not going to do this now because I don't have a lower third for it. So while I have my generic lower third up, by the way, of course, make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. That's where Ostrich Eyes found me. He posted that comment from X. We're streaming live on X. We're streaming live on X every day. We do this. So shout out to the people who watch me on X. They're never quite as, they're there. There are a lot of them always, but they're never quite as communicative in the comment section. But I appreciate you guys for rocking with me. Again, you can always follow me on X. EJ_Stu is where you'll find me. Actually, EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram, where we're also streaming live. I want to talk about this MVP race. So, Lakers, they get throttled yesterday by the Boston Celtics. And we can go on about the Lakers and what they are. To me, they are the biggest conundrum of a team to actually pinpoint, like, how good are they? To be honest, I think the Knicks are too. I think it's ironic that these are two of the huge franchises, but like they both have really gaudy records. But especially with the Lakers, the Lakers especially feels a little more phony. Their lack of success against the best teams, and then also because they've had so many injuries, you can say, well, that record's pretty good considering they had missed all this time without LeBron James. They missed all this time without Austin Reeves. And they missed all this time, several points they missed Luka Doncic, and they still are 12 games above 500 in the West. So you're like, okay, yeah, in theory that should be good. But then, like, why do you have a no-show at home against a Boston Celtic team that still doesn't have Jason Tatum? So if they're a weird team to follow and a weird team to kind of understand what is happening with them and whether or not they can be a threat in the Western Conference. When I was watching Inside the NBA the other day, which we'll get to them in a little bit too. Charles Barkley, they had beaten the Clippers, and on was it Friday? I guess Saturday night or whatever it was. Maybe it was Thursday, and Charles Barkley essentially was like, they beat this Clippers team. I don't know how you can look at them and say that they're anything more than a first or second round exit. And when you look at the top 4 teams in the West, those are the teams that they'd have to face: Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets, Rockets. They're not beating the Thunder. I don't think they're beating the Spurs. But young teams playing in their first playoff situation together against a team that has like playoff stars usually is a mix for a disaster. It's usually a mix for an upset. That's usually how it goes. Does not mean that that's always how it has to go. But you're usually right for those kind of games. So I would be curious. Now, not always. I mean, we've seen, other teams be able to knock out the old guys and basically say, as Brock Lesnar told Hulk Hogan, party's over, grandpa. This could be a party's over, grandpa for Rick Wembanyama to LeBron James. But I would be interested at least in that matchup. But I can't see them beating the Nuggets. A Rockets series would be weird, considering the Rockets and their troubles with late game situations. But more or less, again, the point though being that this is very tenuous for the Lakers in terms of whatever deep run they're on. So you got the Boston Celtics, you got a rival coming into your place. You're giving Pat Riley the honor of having his own statue, which goes into another question about whether or not Staples Center or now the Crypto.com Arena, do they have too many statues? Like, are they jumped the shark? Because they have a lot of statues. Like, they got Shaq, they got Kobe, they got the great Chick Hearn, they have Wayne Gretzky. I think they may have Oscar De La Hoya. That one seems like a stretch. Not Oscar's awesome, and I love boxing, but really a statue outside of crypto. Okay. They have Magic Johnson. They have Kareem. So they have a ton of athletes out there. And then now Pat Riley, who is deserving of one in theory. He's Pat Riley. He's, arguably the greatest coach in Laker history, and he's the person that brought us essentially the Showtime Lakers. Him, of course, along with Paul Westhead, who began with that first championship, and then originally Jack McKinnon, of course, who, if you watch Winning Time, was the original coach before he got sick or got hurt rather. So Pat Riley's there. He's getting his statue. He's in the building. We know he's now become infamous for his hatred of Boston, and then showed the way you did. To me, it's very synonymous with what this Laker team has been, and I think it's why it's been very frustrating for Laker fans to watch them, because they're good enough to keep you invested and interested, but not good enough probably to win a title. So let's talk about the Boston Celtics side, because the Celtics, that's another great win. They've won 8 out of the last 10. They continue to play awesome basketball. Joe Mazzulla has done a phenomenal job as their head coach, and it's also leading to questions about whether or not other guys on their team are being overlooked. One being Jaylen Brown, who's having another awesome season this year and really picking up the slack while Jason Tatum has been hurt. LeBron James has took note, and he actually said after the game yesterday he thinks that Jaylen Brown should be included in MVP conversations.
He's playing great basketball, man, and you can't fault his. This whole MVP thing. I don't understand why his name is not getting talked about some as well. Like, nobody gave them a shot to start the season. And he's having, 30?
Yeah, just under.
Yeah, just under 30? Yeah, it's a popularity contest sometimes, I tell you.
Popularity contest. Interesting. Wonder who he's talking about with there. So Jaylen Brown was awesome in this game. He's had again a season where he's been dominant. I mentioned when I started this list, when I did my list of top 10 players in the NBA on Friday night, I included Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown was my number 10 guy, which is, in this league, there's a lot of great players. That's pretty high praise for Jaylen Brown. He didn't shoot the ball great. He's only 10 for 28 last night, but he did have 32 points. He did have 7 assists. He did have 8 rebounds, and he did play his typical all-NBA caliber defense. So, like I've said before, he's one of the best two-way players in the league, arguably the best two-way player in the league, especially when you talk about wing guys. So you do kind of wonder and say, LeBron may have a point. I think LeBron does have a point here. Like, I don't know about the popularity contest aspect of it, and I'll get to some LeBron shade in a second, but why isn't Jaylen Brown being discussed more in the MVP voting? The reporter told him he's averaging just under 30 points. He's averaging 29.2 points per game. He's averaging 7 rebounds. He's averaging about 5 assists. And that's for like a true wing, not like a combo wing or like a point forward. Like, he's not doing that. So the fact that he's playing at this high level, his team is undermanned. They actually sold off some very important pieces. Like, you sold off a Drew Holiday, a Kristaps Porzingis. I know he's kind of, in and out of the lineup, but when he's there, he was extremely helpful for the Celtics. And Jason Tatum's hurt. To LeBron's point, a lot of people said, well, this is going to be a kind of maybe a tank year for the Celtics, even some people thought. They are right there when it comes to the Eastern Conference. They're second in the Eastern Conference. They had the 3rd best record in the NBA. LeBron's right. Like, why aren't we talking about Jaylen Brown for MVP? I personally, and I keep saying it again, and I say 3rd best, 4th best record in the NBA, sorry, because Pistons are the best record, then it's Thunder, then Spurs, and then the Celtics are right there. So 4th best record in the NBA. Why isn't Jaylen Brown getting more discussion for MVP? I have some reasons. Not that they're right, but I think that this is the reasons why. Number one, I just mentioned that I have him as the 10th best player in the NBA, which I don't personally think is probably that different than where most people would rank him. I could argue people in Boston maybe rank him higher, but in terms of like just the overall landscape of like people who observe basketball, I think people say 10, that seems fair. Maybe someone say, oh, he's having a great year, maybe he should be up with the 8 or whatever, but he's somewhere probably between 7 and 12 for most people. And 7 being like really on the high end. We've had this weird discussion because the MVP conversation has been kind of like distorted in so many ways about like, should we not just be giving it to like the best players? Because there's been all this conversation about, oh, Michael Jordan should have won more, Kobe Bryant should have won more, and then of course LeBron James should have won more. That I think because Jaylen Brown, no one thinks he's the best player in the NBA, and no one thinks he's close to being the best player in the NBA, that he's not up for this conversation. Now, I have always argued that should have nothing to do with who gets voted for MVP. Especially in a basketball season now where people care less about the regular season. Like, to me, that now it doesn't matter who the best player in the league is. It really should more matter in terms of who actually showed up in a major way in their regular season. Because the best players will just save themselves for the postseason, so I'm not going to just give them a award just for they can give them an award. So I think that shouldn't be the case, but I think that's a reality. You know, people say, well, I don't think Jaylen Brown's as good as Shea or as good as Jokic, so I'm not putting him in that conversation. Should we do now? Again, we could have a lot of conversations. Why do people not think he's as good as those two guys? Now that brings me to take number two. I also think, like I've said before, is we've gotten so advanced when it comes to evaluating players based almost solely on analytics and overall statistics. Jaylen Brown, now there are analytics that show you he's awesome defensively. There are analytics that show you he's a great player. But Shea and Jokic are almost literally built out of a lab when it comes to the numbers they put up and what it means for their efficiency overall and what it means for their advanced statistics. That almost no one comes close to both of those guys. And Jaylen Brown certainly doesn't come close to both of those guys. So the problem is people will point to other things about those guys and their efficiency to say, well, these guys are clearly better players, particularly offensively. So they're also just deading his candidacy because what's going to happen is what keeps happening is we're going to go back 15 years from now and go back and whether we're doing a retrospective on Nikola Jokic's resume in his career or we're doing a retrospective on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's career, we're going to go back and say, oh man, that year in 2026, they should have won MVP. They averaged 30 points and shot almost 55% from the field. Who the hell won MVP? What, Jaylen Brown? How the hell did Jaylen Brown win this thing? You may say, oh, it's just not going to happen. Yes, it will. It's been happening now. I get one of the most aggressive rants I had on this show was my frustration with people who do not understand why Derrick Rose won MVP over LeBron James in 2011. And I swear these people either were not alive, they're disingenuous, or they're morons. It's one of those 3 or 4 things. Because if you watched that season and you knew the story of that season, it was perfectly understandable. It made sense why Derrick Rose was the most valuable player. Nobody said he was the best player. That's not the award we give out. There are some leagues and some sports where they give out best player award. And if you want to do best player, then yeah, LeBron James, you could argue maybe was the best player that season. But who had the best season, without question, it was Derrick Rose. He took a team that was the 8th seed the year before, and he was the starting point guard for a team that I think that year won 60 plus games, trounced the Heat 3 times that year, and they were far and away the best team in the NBA for the regular season, and he was a superstar for them. Not star, superstar. He also dominated his matchup. A matchup at that time, point guards now are tough, but that was kind of the beginning of the point guard position being Mortal Kombat. And his individual matchups, you look at his stats against Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Rajon Rondo, the top point guards of that time, he was beheading all of these guys. So it was very clear why he won MVP. But these people who jump in because they want to glaze LeBron and his leg and say, oh, LeBron should have won 7 MVPs. Look at what he did in 2011. And I'm like, well, did you know LeBron was passing up open shots late in games? Did you know the Heat were up and down during the regular season? Did you see the issues they had finishing games? Like, these were things that if you were alive and you watched this happen, you would know why LeBron didn't win MVP. But then we want to go back in retrospective and go to a basketball reference page and say, well, because I know basketball reference, I know basketball. These people don't know basketball. So I'm saying all that to say I think that these voters now get in their heads. I think now they're looking at this and they're going more purely off of counting stats. They're saying this guy averages more points, more assists, more rebounds, he's shooting a better percentage, and therefore, and then the analytic numbers offensively in terms of their efficiency is super high. So these are the guys that should win. And then when people go back and look at my vote from 10, 15 years from now, they're not going to question it. Like we question Derrick Rose, like we question Steve Nash, which to me, again, I think is BS. Because I think it takes away you're not really thinking about what's happening in the NBA in context. You're looking at it through a calculator. To me, Jaylen Brown, he's right. I feel stupid, honestly, what LeBron said. Jaylen Brown absolutely should be an MVP candidate. This MVP race, in theory, should be wide open. I would have Shea number 1, but like I said yesterday, I think I said last time I did the show on Monday, was that Friday morning. I think you can make the case that KAT should be entering the chat. Maybe he should be number 2, and you can make a case certainly that Jaylen Brown should be. They should be the top 4 guys. Like no question to me, those should be the top 4 guys at this point. And Jaylen Brown's got zero conversation. I think LeBron made a good point to mention how is that possible given the season the Celtics have had and given what I think the most valuable player award should be defined as. To me, it's always who is most valuable to their team, and then whose value for that team has then resulted in them having a spectacular, great season. That to me is the criteria. It's not about who's the best player, who's having the most points. It's not about that. It's literally it's called the most valuable player award. Why people want to turn it into something else, I don't really understand. I'm like, you say what's the definition? Just take the title of the title of the award, most valuable. Who do you think is most valuable to their team in their success? You could argue all 4 of these guys when you talk about you had KAT in there. Then it's close, but sometimes they go to, well, I think this guy's the best player, so therefore I'm doing this. Like, no, that's not what we're asking for. That's not the criteria for this. It's who is most valuable to their team given the success their team has had this year. Jaylen Brown, he just has to be in that conversation. They're 18 games above 500. They're missing what everyone thought was their best player for an entire season. And they have a better record than the Knicks. They have a better record than the Cavs. They have better records than a lot of teams people thought they'd be well behind. They just went to LA and just punched the Lakers. Yeah. I hate the fact that I'm sitting here stumbling for a Boston Celtic this bad, but I think LeBron James makes a phenomenal point. He absolutely deserves to be in the case. So then LeBron, he elaborated further when he was asked more about this. He said that he's had issues with how MVPs have been handed out.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know the criteria of MVP anymore. I kind of stopped giving a damn about it a long time ago. I got my own personal issues about it, so yeah, these guys will tell you why.
It's funny when he points to these guys will tell you why. This video I got was shot from, I assume this was his own video because it was on his page and he didn't courtesy anybody else, and it looked like it was shot from a cell phone. It looked like this, so it was shot from Dave McMenamin, who Dave McMenamin is known to be one of the guys LeBron seems to trust in the media. He'll give LeBron will give him exclusives. It feels like there's commentary about the Lakers that seems to stem from Clutch Sports, or at least seems to be slighted towards Clutch Sports, that you would assume is coming from that camp. And so when LeBron says you can see those, you can talk about those guys, I assume that's, David McMenamin and maybe someone else who was standing next to him who are maybe a little closer to him in terms of people in the media. So LeBron does make it a little bit of a personal gripe where he's probably going back and saying, I should have won all these other MVPs that he didn't win. Again, if he's mentioned the Derrick Rose year, get the F out of here with that. Are there other years maybe he should have won? Sure. I'm sure there are. Not Derrick Rose year. That year he absolutely should not have won. And the fact that, and it's also weird that people also, they, stand 10 toes down on that being the year. Because I'm like, I know it's a regular season award, but I'm like, did you also see him in the playoffs? He freaking choked in the finals. So the worst moment of his career. And this is the year you wanted to give him an MVP. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But, so he kind of made it more about himself there. And again, we all could argue and debate about MVPs every year. There's an argument about whether it should even be a regular season award, which I am 1,000% in support of it remaining a regular season award. I don't like the idea that the MVP is going to be handed out simply to whoever wins the championship. That to me is stupid. That's not. You have a finals MVP. And if you want, add a playoff MVP. If you want to say, hey, we want to celebrate somebody for the playoffs, just make them do the playoffs. That's fine. But I absolutely do not think that it should go to being a postseason included award. The regular season already has so much less meaning. Just make it have less meaning by saying, you know what, we're going to give awards after the regular season. This is silly to me. I don't understand that argument. So that's LeBron there, saying that he has beef with how MVP awards been handed out. Rod DeRay in the chat saying he's talking about the Derrick Rose year, EJ. Yeah, I know. I know that's most likely because that's the one that gets talked about the most, and it's utter BS. It's it's one of the stupidest arguments I feel like people have that I think most people, when you ask them about it, they say, oh, you know what, yeah, we got that one wrong. And I'm like, you guys are morons. I'm sorry. Like, again, it's this idea of we have to look at basketball through the prism of a freaking calculator. And I'm not these I hate analytics guys. I always talk about advanced analytics to talk about all these different guys. Not so much on this show, but I do just in my own life and just in my own evaluation of stuff. I'm not against analytics. I'm not against numbers. And I know some people will say the thing, well, MVP is a narrative award. And I'm like, yeah. It's the definition is most valuable. Or literally, there's a narrative in the actual name of the actual award. That, considering who you think is most valuable, means you have to create a narrative about how the season is gone. So yes, it's a narrative award. We're not giving this out to the best player in the NBA. Again, if you want the NBA to have a best player award, then let's have that conversation. I don't care. I'm fine with that. But for MVP, yeah, it is a narrative award. And if you're a guy carrying a team on his back that wins 60 plus games, wins the Eastern Conference running away, and the other team had a super big three, super team, and you beat them 3 times in the regular season, and you dominate your matchup for the entire season, and you're playing point guard, which means you are also not just, forget about your stats, you're also running the team. You're running their offense. You're initiating everything, especially when you're Derrick Rose. It's not hard. This argument is not hard. I don't care. Like, the people are like, oh, like, how are we going to defend that? I'll defend it. Call me. Because I was freaking there and I was watching. I wasn't sitting around doing whatever or glazing LeBron. No one had this argument when he won the MVP. Derrick Rose won the MVP running away. And now you got these people who come out of nowhere being like, oh, actually, LeBron should have won the MVP. Man, get out of here. Including LeBron. Get out of here. You're right about Jaylen Brown. You're 100% right. And ironically, Jaylen Brown is Derrick Rose. That's what's so funny about this. Is that if LeBron is making this case, then basically you're saying that Jaylen Brown is Derrick Rose. Because his numbers don't stack up to Nikola Jokic. They just don't. No one does. Nikola Jokic is a cheat code. His numbers don't stack up to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Again, pretty much no one does except for Jokic. He's a cheat code. You're saying there's something deeper to Jaylen Brown's impact that makes him important. Yeah. Just like what happened with Derrick Rose, just like what happened with Steve Nash, just like what happened to other guys. And those guys deservedly won MVPs. Nash probably won one more than he should have, in my opinion. One should have went to Kobe, for sure. But, yeah, those guys had that just like Jaylen Brown does. So, interesting stuff from LeBron. I love that he made the case for Jaylen Brown. I don't like that he spun it and said there's a reason why I should have won more MVPs. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I do think he makes a good point about Jaylen Brown's MVP case for sure. We got Eric in the chat. Happy Blizzard Day. How much snow did you get? Again, I looked this up before, but I didn't actually follow through in terms of snow totals. I think NBC4 had it. Let me see if I can see NBC4. I don't usually rock with NBC4, not because I ain't beef with them, but simply because as a former Spectrum News New York 1 guy, I usually am very loyal to my peeps at Spectrum News New York 1. Shout out to them. And they do a great job. But I only see this because I think I saw they had the official totals up earlier today, and now I don't see it. So maybe it wasn't them. Let me just search snow totals and see if we can get something close. But it's bad out there. It's definitely bad out there. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, yeah. Okay, it was NBC4. It was Steve Bogner for NBC4. So this was as of 7 a.m. this morning. Perth Amboy. Actually, I may be able to show you guys this on my screen. Let me see if I can show you so you guys can see for yourself. It's a snowstorm day. Shout out to also the fact that New York City is giving the kids a full, real snow day and not this crap of like. You want to talk about things that get me upset more than Derrick Rose and his MVP race or MVP, being called into question. Talk to me about New York City snow days. That would also get me pissed off. So these are the totals from Steve Bogner, managing editor at NBC, Syracuse grad. I'm sure he's a sports fan. He's probably not very happy about the Syracuse Orange and their basketball situation right now. Perth Amboy, New Jersey, 20 inches as of 7 a.m. If you want to get closer to the city, Coney Island right now, 16 inches. Williamsburg, 15 inches. Mott Haven in the Bronx, 15 inches. That was 7 a.m. I think the snow is supposed to keep going pretty much until early afternoon. So we're definitely headed towards record pace when it comes to snow. It's funny because this is like a big snowstorm, and it doesn't seem like anybody's been looking forward to this. I am the one person that has said, "Oh, I can't wait for the snow. This is gonna be a lot of fun." Everybody's like, "Yo, what the f?" And I'm glad people are getting on the bandwagon of what I have been getting on. Now the question is, how do we fix it? I haven't heard anybody come up with the answers how to fix it, but people are realizing what I'm realizing, which is the fact that the heavy snow we got last month, combined with it being, even for New York, unseasonably cold and freezing for a long extended period of time, meant that the snow that we had just simply didn't melt. It didn't start melting until last week, and the snow happened a month ago, which was insane. It was just, we had these mountains of snow, and of course, because it's New York City and people are going about their lives, it becomes the most disgusting snow mountains you've ever seen. And what became worse about them was it wasn't just snow mountains that were dirty from the city grime. People seemed totally fine with the idea of their dogs going out and just pooping on these snow piles and just keep it moving, not picking up after their dog, which has already been a problem in New York City regardless. It's already been a ridiculous issue where people do not pick up after their dogs. I've talked about it on the show. It is one of the stupidest things that this city has allowed since I've been here, since I've lived here. And I've moved to Queens when I was, 2 years old, 3 years old. I've never seen it this bad. And it seemed like the snowstorm only emboldened people more. Where it's like, ooh, here's a nice little pile of snow, dirty snow that I let my dog just poop on and keep it moving. So you have we've had these poop mountains that have been all around New York City for the last month. It's the worst. People finally started talking about it. Like I saw, somebody was talking about it recently on one of these shows. I forgot who it was. Somebody on the Fan. It wasn't Al. Shout out to Al Cintron. Maybe I try to get Al on the show one day. Maybe it was Gallo. No, it was Tommy. Tommy Lugauer. Shout out to Tommy Lugauer. He was the one talking about it. I don't think he actually lives in the city, but I think he obviously works in the city. But yeah, he was talking about how these mountains of poop are just, it's insane. And I'm glad he brought it to local New York airways and nationally across the board and on the Odyssey app. I'm glad people are understanding the plight we've dealt with. So I don't think anybody was really excited about this because finally that snow was starting to melt. And now the poop doesn't melt, but I guess it kind of just goes to its natural state of being whatever. So it wasn't quite as noticeable in the last week with all the snow being gone. Getting 15 to 20 inches of snow means those poop mountains are coming back. They ain't stopping. And I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not typically the person that says, hey, over policing and more policing is the solution to any of these problems. But damn it, these people are menaces to society that are allowing their dogs just poop on things and keep going. Like somebody has to say, hey, this is not allowed. Here's a ticket. Here is something. It cannot be we just let these people do whatever they want and ruin our freaking neighborhoods. It's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. So nobody was excited about this. I saw people being like, man, we just got rid of this poop snow that we've had for a month. And now we have 20 more inches of snow coming, so now it's going to be back. Because these idiots are going to do it again. They're going to go out there and start letting their dog poop on everything. Andrea almost caught one of them. They were right outside of our building, and she lost track of them when she got into the building. Because apparently they live in my building, which makes me even more like, really? You're in our freaking neighborhood, in our living space. You're letting your dog do this. You're an idiot. You're a loser. You're an idiot. You're a loser. And you're a menace to society. Anyway. Fun morning so far. It's been a fun show. Knicks are playing well. Knicks rebound from their loss to the Pistons. Arguably the worst loss of the season. Definitely the most discouraging loss, I think. So you kind of wondered how they would bounce back. And they did. They bounced back really well. It was tenuous in both games in multiple spots. We can start with the Rocky game where the Knicks went down 19 points. 18 points in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brunson at times felt like he was a little lost going up against that Rockets defense. He didn't seem to quite either understand or pick up on the fact that they were trapping him on these ball screens deep, out on the perimeter. and he wasn't doing a good enough job attacking it or ball faking to not avoid turnovers. He had a ton of turnovers. He was missing shots. He was basically invincible for 3 quarters. It was the worst game I think I'd seen Jaylen Brunson up to that point play all season. And the Rockets, they were an excellent defensive team. It is definitely their identity, along with, of course, relying on Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün for offense. And they started to put a stranglehold in that game. You thought, okay, this is going to be maybe a deeper conversation about who the Knicks are. If this is going to be a second home loss where you're playing against an elite team and they come in and just drub you. And they didn't lay down. Shout out to Jose Alvarado. He had a phenomenal game on Saturday. Really changed the entire landscape of the game with his energy, his hustle, and his defense. He sparked the change. Karl-Anthony Towns had a big game. And Jaylen Brunson put on the cape in the last 4 or 5 minutes, made some big buckets, just cooking Jabari Smith and Tyree Eason. He was having problems with Amen Thompson all night, but he got switches on those guys. And it was bag work time. I mean, he just completely just getting any shot he wanted against those guys. And the Knicks were able to come back on a really hard-fought, tough win against the Houston Rockets. So they beat Burning Man on Saturday. And then on Sunday, back-to-back, you traveling to Chicago. You get into your hotel after 3 a.m. Bulls are a terrible team. They've been tanking nonstop since the trade deadline. They've been turning the ball over nonstop. The previous games before this one, they had 23 and 24 turnovers. Knicks come out in this one and a little, I don't want to say lethargic. It was just a tough game, which I think you kind of expected coming from a emotional back-to-back. They never seemed to quite get into a great rhythm. Jaylen Brunson had another kind of stinker when it came to his shooting aspect of this game. But similarly, man, Karl-Anthony Towns was awesome in this one. He had 28 points and 11 rebounds, and he had 4 offensive rebounds in that game. Mitchell Robinson, of course, didn't play because he continues to have this injury management where he doesn't play on back-to-backs. And the Knicks were able to kind of really gut out a tough win. Landry Shamet coming off the bench. I keep saying, man, Shamet's becoming one of my favorite players on this team. So clutch, so good defensively, and really becoming one of the reliable guys on that Knicks bench moving forward. So Knicks then beat the Bulls 105-99. So 2 good wins for the Knicks coming off of a real disappointing loss to the Detroit Pistons on Thursday. After the Rockets game, though, there was this exchange between Karl-Anthony Towns and Shaq. So Shaq moved around a lot because his dad was in the military, but he spent a great deal of his childhood growing up in Newark, New Jersey. So he does claim Newark as his hometown, or at least one of his hometowns. Karl-Anthony Towns is from Central Jersey, so they're 2 Jersey guys. So they have that connection. Outside of that, I'm not exactly sure how much of a relationship Shaq and KAT have, but I want you guys to hear this conversation as I bring this in, because apparently I did not add it to my soundboard. But I'm just going to bring this in real quick so you can hear it. Shaq was talking to Karl-Anthony Towns after the game. This is on Inside the NBA. When he's asked about, the game, and there have been like conversations on the show just about how Karl-Anthony Towns have been playing, because it's just been a constant thing from this season. I'll be honest, I also feel like KAT needs to do a better job of answering some of these questions. Not this one, but just in general. Earlier, like this week, when they had that loss and he was asked, hey man, like, is the offense, is there anything in the offense that's not allowing you to like perform the way we were accustomed to you performing? And he kind of made this kind of like dismissive remark about, the offense has been the offense all season. I just go out there and just play, which I know you're frustrated. I know it's a bad loss, but when you just say the offense is the offense, and this is how it's been all season, it suggests, again, and which is maybe what he's trying to get across, but either way, I don't like it, that, listen, this is how it's been all season. Don't blame me for when I struggle. Like, this is how they want to play. I don't love it. I don't love it. And he's answered this question a couple of times this way, and I think he needs to cut it out, because I think it's then leading to more conversation about him, his fit, his role, his attitude, when the Knicks have no time for these kind of conversations. You can simply just say, I need to play better. I didn't perform tonight. I'll be better next game. We don't need the offense is the offense. I don't know. Like, it's silly. So that answer led to, I think, more conversations about KAT and his fit and everything. And for the show, Shaq was very critical of KAT, saying that he's playing too soft, that he needs to assert his dominance. And he said during this conversation you're going to hear that he was proud of KAT for playing the way he did, and that's what you need to see from KAT consistently moving forward.
In the game, I said you were playing soft because I've seen you at times when you play great. And what you must understand in New York, You need to be great for you guys to win a championship. It's high aspirations. You know, if you guys win the championship, of course they're going to talk about Brunson, but it's you and your play. You have to be dominant. You responded very, very well. You played well. You played in the paint. That's how you should play. You should always play great. Being from Jersey, good ain't good enough. You had a great game tonight. I'm proud of you.
For sure.
Okay. So we saw at the end, Kat said for sure. So he didn't disagree. And I think, you know, Shaq has his way of motivating guys, his way of talking to guys. I can get to maybe like the interview style inside the NBA, but let's leave that aside for a second. I thought what Shaq said there was fine. This is how he talks to guys, and this is he's saying you played well. He gave Kat his props because Kat, he did play well in this game. He's up against an all-star center. And Mike Brown said after the game that Kat really kind of took ownership in the huddle at the league got out of hand, saying, "Hey, like we need to turn this around, and it starts on the defensive end," which was funny because when he said that to, I believe it was Lita Salter doing the game, he said that in the third quarter going into the fourth. I kind of rolled my eyes. Not that the defense wasn't good or wasn't bad; it was bad, but their offense was so terrible in that third quarter. And they look so lost in terms of finding easy shots that I was like, okay, yes, we know you gotta get stops, but like, bro, like what is this offense right now? Like they're not generating good looks at all, and they seem to be completely lost. So I thought maybe he really wasn't seeing the game right. But to his credit, he said the same thing to the team in the huddle before he went back out there. And then Mike Brown said like he started it with an initial immediate stop on Alperen Şengün, and he guarded him great down the stretch the rest of the game, which he did. So Kat, you got to give him credit for that, and I'm glad Shaq did. Which Kat seemed to appreciate, and appreciate the criticism, appreciate the respect, and said, yeah, for sure. He just adds this, because you heard in there where Shaq made a comment about, you know, they're going to give Brunson all the credit, but in order for the Knicks to be great, you got to be great. And Kat says for sure. But then Kat added this when it came to the credit part, and this is where there seemed to be something lost in translation between Shaq and Karl-Anthony Towns.
But what you said, too, is if we win a championship, they could talk about anybody as long as we all get a ring. That's the most important thing.
No, but
I don't care.
But
I don't care about none of that.
No, but you got to play great. 1-2 punch, and you part of that 1-2 punch.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Right.
But, you know, I want to make sure we all understand the biggest goal and the main goal here is to win. You know, it don't matter about who gets the credit or whatever.
It ain't about credit. You got to play great. Nope, you got to play great to get the credit.
I hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Legend, I agree with you.
All right.
I agree with you.
You know I got you Jersey, baby.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So then that led to a greater conversation about Kat's mentality, and that's what Shaq kind of wanted to ask the guys, like, what do you think about his answers? Which to me, that was awkward. That was obviously awkward. I personally looked at that and felt like there's just things about TV magic and media magic that are always gonna be tricky. Kat is on some delay that may be 3 or 4 seconds behind, not anything crazy. But when you're on even a slight delay, you can't see the person. You don't know what they're trying to get across. He's just hearing messages and trying to answer the questions as best he can. Shaq's comment about, Jalen Brunson's going to get all the credit if you guys win, but you're important. Kat agreed with that, but then wanted to emphasize that probably because he's been getting all this heat about he's mopey, he's upset he's upset they tried to trade him, and he doesn't feel as welcome, and he doesn't feel as comfortable with all this other stuff. He hears that. Just like I just mentioned earlier, how I think he needs to cut this out about like the offense and stuff. He hears that. He knows it's a criticism. Shaq and Charles Barkley, the first question, said that I know you guys got your ass kicked by the Pistons, and I know you guys were reading about what everybody was talking about. Because even though you're an athlete, we just know it's impossible, especially in New York City, to ignore that. How did you guys respond? And he said, yeah, we heard it, and we responded well today. I feel like Kat simply was speaking to only the part about the credit part. Because I think he wants to, get that off of him, that he in some way is going to be jealous of Jalen Brunson if the Knicks win, or that he's jealous of Jalen Brunson now, that Jalen Brunson gets all the credit, and maybe he's the guy that gets the ultimate green light where Kat doesn't have it. And he said what I thought was a great answer, which is, I don't care about the success. Not the success. I don't care about the accolades. I don't care about, who gets the credit. As a team, everybody needs to be on the same page and just knowing that, like, we are here for one goal, which is to win a title. We got to do whatever it takes. Who cares about who gets the credit? And it seemed like Shaq took that as him absolving himself of accountability towards having to play great for the Knicks to win, which I don't think he never said. He never said. I think that he acknowledged that he agrees with Shaq in the first comment. He said, for sure, and you're right. And he said, I want to add on something else. And then, like, that's when Shaq kind of flew off the handle. And it became this larger conversation about Karl-Anthony Towns and his mentality. And, you know, Shaq feeling like Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't have the mentality to be a great player because of an answer like that. Which I would argue, I think he just got lost in translation. I think that you're in the delay. He agreed with 99% of what you said. He heard one thing that he wanted to just, not even combat, just address, because he doesn't want people to think that he cares about the credit. He wants his whole team to know that he doesn't care about the credit. And Shaq kind of flew off the handle. He kind of became a thinker like, oh no, you gotta be great. You gotta understand this. And as Karl-Anthony Towns said, I don't agree with you, legend. I agree with what you're saying. Just understand, I don't care about the credit. But Shaq then talked about mentality, and he mentioned how, you know, Kenny Smith, because there was an argument, is Kenny Smith a great player? He's like, well, Kenny Smith was a great player because he had a great mentality. Because when I was playing in the NBA Finals and we were losing, and we were trying to double Hakeem Olajuwon, he kept saying, stop doubling off of me or I'm going to kill you. And of course, he hit the huge shot in game one that just changed that entire series and led to a sweep. So here's Shaq talking about Kenny's mentality and what he needs to see from KAT having the same mentality.
Let me tell you what Kenny was great. You was jumping on me, I was getting swept in the finals, right? Kenny told me in the game, y'all better stop doubling me, because his mentality said, you keep doubling me and leaving me open, I'm going to hit the shot. It's about, I'm not saying be me and all that, it's about mentality. When I tell you, you got to do this and do that, don't respond by saying, oh, I'm trying to look out for it. No, you got to be great. No.
So then this led to again about, and then Charles Barkley then stepped in to kind of debate Shaq or argue with Shaq. Mainly this idea that Karl-Anthony Towns and who he is in terms of just his personality, his makeup, he's not made up like Shaq. He's not even made up like Kenny Smith. He is a nice guy, which is what they kept saying. He's a nice guy. He's a good kid. He's not some guy that's going to be dirty or some guy that's going to get angry and play mad. That's not his mentality, and we can't keep trying to make KAT something that he isn't.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying we all don't have the same mental makeup.
Okay.
And listen, Karl-Anthony Towns is a very good player, terrific player. He's just a nice guy. He ain't no killer. We can't make him no killer. Like, he don't have no killer like you. Like, you're dangerous.
So, and those things might be true. All I say is, again, this feels like a conversation that started out of a complete misunderstanding. I don't think Karl-Anthony Towns at all is skirting from responsibility and accountability for his success, meaning the Knicks' success. In fact, it seems like much of the issue this year has been that he doesn't get the ball enough or in the spots needed for him to be successful. That's been the entire crux of this. It's not, oh, I don't want more accountability or more responsibility. He wants more of it, it seems like. And it seems like the issue has been he's not getting that. And that's why he's been frustrated, reportedly. So all this talk about, well, he's got to be a killer, he's got to be this or that, he's too nice. They could be true, but I don't think it's necessarily related to his conversation with Shaq. I think his conversation with Shaq was more simply about, I don't care about getting all the accolades and all the credit if we do win. Which, I'm like, good. Because guess what? If the Knicks do win a championship, unless well, first of all, everybody on the team is going to be immortalized. Because Patrick Ewing got all the credit for the Knicks for winning in the 90s, and they didn't win a title. But you ever go to the Garden and see the response and the round of applause that John Starks gets when he's in the building? Do you ever see the response that Latrell Sprewell gets when he's at the Garden? I can't say Oak. The response Oak got was a lifetime ban and get carried out of the building because of his beef with the owner. But Knick alums, if you've won here and you gave your heart to the city, and you laid it all on the line, New York City will always show you love. Hell, Stephon Marbury didn't win anything here. In fact, he lost a ton here. And he still shows up, sits courtside at Madison Square Garden, and they show his face on that screen, and he still gets a round of applause and a standing ovation. Karl-Anthony lost a lot here. And they show his face sitting courtside at the Garden, and he gets a loud round of applause and a standing ovation. So, I say all that to say that Karl-Anthony Towns, he'll get love if they win a title. For sure. And I even think, like, whatever hard feelings people may have with KAT in terms of his initial time here, that will soften as time goes on. Because the love that Melo gets now and the love that Steph gets now, that was not the case when those guys first left New York. Especially Steph. It was bad. Like, he was a pariah here. And now you would think that he won 4 championships every time he shows up at Madison Square Garden. Carmelo Anthony, there are a lot of people who, when it ended, some people sided with Phil Jackson, as crazy as that sounds. Some people felt like Melo didn't do enough and didn't sacrifice enough when it came to doing all it took to win a championship. So, time's going to heal all wounds with that stuff. So if they come up short, even KAT will get his love because of all the winning the Knicks have done. But if they do win, unless he gets a game-winning shot in Game 7 or does something insane, of course the story's going to be about Brunson. Because we know if they win a championship, Brunson's going to be the driving force. He's one of the best 10 players in the NBA. KAT is not. So, him having that awareness and saying, I just don't care about that, I don't think is a bad thing, and I don't think it's something that means that he's too nice or he doesn't have killer instinct. I think it's him being a realist and him also understanding that him, not just him, but also his teammates need to understand that all of them have to have that mentality. I get the impression that's something he's probably been told. Like, whether it's been from the coaching staff, whether it's been from Jaylen Brunson himself, whether it's been from Josh Hart. Because I've mentioned, I think of all the people I've seen in terms of talking about Carnegie Towns this year, I feel like Josh Hart has been the one that's been most tough love, like, in terms of, like, talking about KAT and getting them welcome and getting them comfortable, like, you know. Like, I remember I mentioned it a couple of games ago, or a couple weeks ago now, like, he fell down or something and he's laying on the ground, because you know how KAT does. He gets hit and it's like he got shot. And every time, and by the way, every time I think he did. Like, he lumbers to the basket. I told you my fiance calls him the lumberjack. He's lumbering to the basket and he's crashing to the ground, and I'm like, oh God, please don't let's be the one where he's really hurt. Normally he's not. Usually he gets up. But one of those times he did that, he's laying on the ground, writhing in pain. Deuce McBride's like, yo, you good? And Josh Hart walks over, he's like, man, get up. I'm like, that's your teammate, bro. But I think they kind of know that's kind of the tough love he needs. So it's possible that KAT has been told that he's been told, hey, listen, man, like, F the credit, F, like, who gets the accolades. We're trying to win a championship. So that's him simply, I think, relaying what the team message is, but I think it's good if the team messaging is getting through that much, that he felt the need to respond to that. I don't see that as a bad thing. I think TNT, well, they're not TNT anymore, sorry. I think Inside the NBA kind of spun it into something that it wasn't. It ended up being great television, like that exchange, and then the dialogue that came out of it, it was compelling for them to hear him talk about it. I just thought it was much ado about nothing. And I don't even think it was even on purpose. Sometimes say, oh, they're twisting this to get clicks or whatever, and that's definitely not those guys. Those guys don't give a damn about that. They are naturally just, like, very good at what they do. So I don't think that was the case. And I'll be the first person to be critical of Inside the NBA. I don't think that was the case. I think it was a misunderstanding. I do feel like, I don't know why they do those post-game interviews with Inside the NBA. Because you had this KAT interview, and we've had several of these very weird exchanges where the questions, you could debate how relevant the questions are when they're talking about something that happened, you know, in the game, and they're asking questions about various different things. You question sometimes the questions, but also, like, I mean, it's ironic they talk about they're not a hot take show. I mean, they kind of are. Now, they have a lot of fun, and they do a lot of bits, and they bring something more to the table than just hot takes, which is why I think people like them so much. But they let it rip in terms of their opinions. And a couple nights earlier, or maybe the night before, whatever day it was, I mean, the Lakers, it might have been that day, I don't remember. But anyway, the Lakers played the Clippers, and I mentioned now, Charles Barkley was ripping the Lakers. They just won. They beat the Clippers. They beat them in pretty dominant fashion. And Charles Barkley's going on and on about, this team ain't that good. I'm sorry. They're going to get beat in the first round, second round. People say keep talking about the Lakers and talk about the Lakers. Like, I'm tired of talking about them because they're not that relevant when it comes to the title picture and all these different things. And right as he's done talking about how bad the Lakers are, Ernie Johnson's like, we have Austin Reeves live, who's ready to talk to us here on Inside the NBA. Austin, did you hear what he just said? And Austin's like, yeah, I heard a little bit of it. He's like, what do you think? Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And part of me is like, and I don't have, and to be clear, and I've been critical of Inside a ton. This isn't even me being critical of like what anything Chuck Barkley said or him having that opinion. I just feel like sometimes they play this game of like, what do you want to be? Like, do you want to just be a show that's kind of independent of like whatever the NBA wants you to be and wants you to think or whatever, which I think has value. But then you can't do well, let's also talk to the guys and interview the guys about stuff. Like, you're just ripping the Lakers. Unfiltered. And again, I loved it. There was nothing, whether I agree or disagree, I like that Charles Barkley stood 10 toes down on whatever he wanted to say about the Lakers. It is awkward to then say, hey, let's talk to the guy who just played great for them in this game and ask him, what do you think about what Charles Barkley just said? It feels weird. It feels weird. We don't have any other show that does that. It's almost there's a reason why, like, we see Scott Van Pelt, for example. Like, he does SportsCenter, and then he does, well, the game happens usually Monday Night Football. Now it's been more NBA. Sometimes it's college basketball now, too, for sure. And then sometimes after the game, he'll talk to the winner. But if you, like, SVP's doing SportsCenter, so he's not, it's a weird SportsCenter where he will kind of sneak in takes here and there, but it's more of him still kind of just presenting the night of sports. I think SVP's SportsCenter show is excellent. It really serves really well as a post game to whatever you just watched, and then giving you an update on what else happened, over the course of this sports night. Like, he's not gonna go and blow up Kansas basketball right before they're saying, hey, we got Bill Self, we got Darren Peterson on the line. Like, he's not gonna do that. And it puts them in an awkward spot because he knows what that show is supposed to be. The show is not supposed to be him ripping guys and talking about his takes on individual teams. He will give glancing takes over like the landscape of sports. I think tanking is bad. I think, what's going on with coaches leaving their schools before the playoffs is bad. Like, he'll talk about those kind of different things. But he's not going to say, after talking about coaches leaving their team, let's talk to Lane Kiffin. Like, just not how that works, right? So sometimes I think with that show, and I think the NBA, I think there needs to probably be a better communication about what are you guys trying to do and what do you want to be? Because I don't know if Karl-Anthony Towns, did he need a talking down to by Shaq? Like, did he need to be undressed by Shaq in that way? And, Charles Barkley starts the interview saying, you guys got your ass kicked by the Pistons, which KAT took well. He said that's one way, that's a humble way to put it. And I didn't think he said it in a way that was like upset that he said it that way. I think he kind of was like, yeah, we got our ass kicked. That sucked. Which again, I thought KAT, for all the conversation about this interview, I thought KAT was great in this interview. I appreciated a lot of his demeanor during this. But that's how you start an interview. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like if you want to just say, hey, we're going to be unfiltered, we're going to rip guys, I don't think we need to be having guys doing post-game interviews. Like, the Knicks won that game. The Lakers won that game. And there are fans who will look at that and be pissed off, like if you were a Lakers fan or a Knicks fan. And like I was kind of like, wow, that's kind of weird. Like, I didn't. And then the conversation that comes out of it is just about like Karl-Anthony Towns and is he mean enough? I'm like, hey, can we talk about the fact that the Knicks had an 18-point come from behind win? It's the best win of their season. They just had a bounce back against the Pistons. Like, does this make you feel any better about their chance of the East? Does it not matter? Like, that's more of what I cared about to hear at that point in time than Shaq kind of, I don't want to say go into business for himself, but seemed to just take a take that he had and want to just focus only on that. But that has at times been my criticism of Inside the NBA, is that are they serving the audience that just watched the game they just watched, or are they serving whatever conversation they want? They have a huge audience who loves what they do, so they can do whatever they want. But some of those conversations, the Shaq and Karl-Anthony Towns exchange in the previous game, or maybe later again, I kind of forgot the timeline when that happened. The Austin Reeves, Charles Barkley exchange also I thought were both a little strange, if you ask me. Curious what you guys think. How do you guys feel about Inside the NBA? Because I always tell people, like, my understanding, like when I talk to, again, my litmus test for older generation of basketball fans is typically Andrew Perloff. Shout out to my good friend Andrew Perloff, because he loves the NBA, he loves basketball, but we see the game extremely differently. And my dad, those are the two. And ironically, they're similar of age, so therefore they see the games much more similarly than I would see with them. So I'm curious, like I always say, I think, and what I've seen on social media, it feels like young folks do not love this, like, kind of combative way of approaching talking about basketball. I don't mind this as much as I don't care about these two teams playing, or I don't care about this or that. Like, that annoys me, because I'm like, this is your job. You should care about it. And I spent my last 2.5 hours watching this game. Or even if sometimes they also show highlights of other games that weren't on ESPN. They say, who cares about the Hornets versus the, Pelicans? It's like, okay, well, like, this is the NBA. I'm watching this show to get informed about what's going on in the NBA. Like, please care about it. Like, otherwise, why am I here? Why don't you just talk about the game you just had and then just go to bed? Like, or go home? Like, why are you still doing a show then? So, again, those are my critiques. I'm curious, do you guys still love Inside the way I think people used to? If the people have mentioned how it feels like their impact on just the overall conversation with the NBA feels to have dissipated. It just doesn't feel quite as impactful as it used to be. I think Charles Barkley, I loved his commentary on the tanking, saying that, if you're below 500, you can't ever increase ticket prices. Like small things to try to help tanking. We're all thinking outside the box. That's an outside the box thought that at first I kind of dismissed. I was like, is that really going to help? I'm like, well, these teams that are tanking every single year, especially with inflation and just how inflation works. If you keep losing all the time, you can never increase your ticket prices. That would definitely hurt them in their pockets, especially for the people that are doing this simply because they want to make a profit. That's been a huge issue in baseball. In fact, in baseball, that'd be a godsend in baseball. They can do that. If these scrub ass teams run by these broke boy owners, if they weren't able to increase ticket prices for being losers, I would love that. I actually thought that was good. That was good. A good idea by Chuck. You gotta have other things. That would be not the top thing of one of the reasons why I would that I think could stop tanking, but I do think that would be a part of it. Like these owners would eventually be like, yo man, like I keep losing, I'm not getting any results for our tanking, and therefore we can't raise ticket prices. So I would love that. I actually think that should be more of a thing they do in baseball. Because I mentioned before, you got a team like the Cleveland Guardians, 29th in payroll, 15th in ticket prices. How does that make any sense? If you're 29th in payroll, in theory, that means your tickets should be much cheaper. Because you're like, well, we're not paying a lot for players to get here, so we want to just get you in the ballpark. And we're not going to, we're not, the money you're giving us, we're not putting it to our roster, so at least we'll make the ticket prices low. They ain't doing that. They're still saying, hey, 15, basically middle of the pack when it comes to ticket prices. That should be illegal. That's insane. 29th in payroll and 15th in ticket prices? That's ridiculous. So I liked that idea from Chuck. I thought that was good. Again, inside the NBA, they have a place. Is it my cup of tea the way it used to be? Not so much. But I'm curious if you guys in the chat, if you guys still rock with Chuck, EJ, the original EJ. There's always a part of me that wonders, man, am I going to get to like a certain point in my career and they're going to say, hey, buddy, I know you go by EJ, but there already is an EJ who's very famous in media. I'm like, oh, but I've been called EJ since I was literally an infant. Like, am I going to change my name back to Elijah? Which is still my name, of course, but it's just not the name I go by for doing media stuff. Very curious. Anyway, let's keep the ball rolling, man. Let's talk about quickly what happened over in D.C. So this was an awesome game. This was one of the best things in the weekend. I want to make sure I didn't lose sight of it because of all the other stuff that happened over the weekend. But on Saturday feels like a long time ago now. But Duke beat Michigan. They played in the Capital Showdown random event that they made up for this game. I'm glad they did, by the way. I hope we get more of these. Like I saw that Duke essentially wanted to have a game like this on their schedule later in the season in a non-conference neutral site atmosphere because they wanted to recreate what could come with March Madness, which I think is brilliant. Jon Scheyer, first of all, I'll get to the players. He's a special coach. And I have no love for Duke. I'm not a Duke fan, so this is not me fanboying over Duke or anything like that. In fact, I strongly root against Duke, and I was strongly rooted against them for this game. And I actually also very much did not like Jon Scheyer's hire, not necessarily because of the fact that they hired him. That wasn't my issue. But if the reporting and the stuff you heard in the Ian O'Connor's book was true, that essentially they were planning to hire Tommy Amaker. And that, Coach K kind of kneecapped the administration and, kneecapped Tommy Amaker because he felt that Jon Scheyer was the right guy. That will never sit right with me just in terms of how that went down. Tommy Amaker, of course, has been a coach at the college level, been a head coach for a long time. Now, he's never had the success that Jon Scheyer is having now. And I could argue that maybe he would not have had the success Jon Scheyer had. Jon Scheyer might have been the better choice because he seems like a great head coach. But I did not like that, especially when you consider again, we talk all about black head coaches in all sports, and especially college basketball, where it comes to how they get railroaded at times. We see Jerome Tang, who had a spirited conversation about how his team was basically quitting on him mid-season. And then he gets fired, and they're saying, well, we're going to try to take all your money away because you made comments about how the players were quitting and that embarrassed the organization or embarrassed the school, when he's been right. Like, we watched Kansas State basketball this year. They look awful. And they look nothing like what K-State has been in previous years. And they're using that comment to try to take his money away. And we've seen that with Mike Anderson. As much as I love St. John, we saw that with Mike Anderson and St. John's, where you try to fire him without cause, or with cause rather, so you can find a way to, keep the millions of dollars that are owed him in his contract. We saw that again with Kevin Ollie, where he had to sue to try to get that money. It seems to happen predominantly or discriminate. Well, that's not a word. What's the word I'm looking for? It seems to be just like heavy-handedly towards black coaches, where they try to fire you with cause for things that they would never try to get their money away from other coaches. So I have a problem with that. I have a problem with what happened with Tommy Amaker. That being said, that has nothing to do with John Shire. He had nothing to do with that. So I have no issue with him. He's a phenomenal coach. And I think that it was a smart concept to say, we could use this kind of experience in a non-conference setting against a elite team late in the season to simulate what we get for March Madness. I love that, because I know you could argue, Duke, every road game is them against the world, because those schools, Duke is their biggest game on the schedule. It's a sellout. Crowd's going to go ballistic. They want to storm the court if they win. So there is an aspect to Duke's road games always being somewhat of a test, but the ACC has become really kind of a secondary conference in the last few years. Like, when you think of the best basketball conferences in America, you're talking about the SEC and the Big 12, by far. Everyone else is a step below. So, and then, maybe you want to sneak in the Big 10. That's probably the Big 3. It's pretty fair. Those 3. Everyone else is a step below. And Duke doesn't have those kind of quality games. They have tough road games, because these are tough road atmospheres, but they don't have the same quality of opponents that they're facing. So I think it was smart for John Shire to want to schedule this game. I credit Michigan also for wanting to play this game in February late, where they have a brutal Big Ten schedule that they've dominated throughout, but still, it's a tough schedule to get through. So I love that they played Duke. I love that this matchup happened. But Shire, man, I mean, the way that they attacked Mara to get him in foul trouble early, that allowed them to play a much smaller Michigan lineup for a large majority of this game. And I thought the way that they defended the 3-ball and defended on the perimeter, I mean, Duke, we talk about Michigan's defense, which has been elite all year. Duke also has a great defense. Cam Boozer down the stretch of this one was the superstar you expect him to be. He was huge down the stretch. I thought that goaltend they called on Maurer was not the greatest call. I thought that was a clean block. And I was surprised they did. I wasn't shocked they didn't overturn it, because it was so close that it was close. Tie goes to the runner. But I was a little annoyed they called it goaltending on the court, because I think it wasn't. So it was kind of a tough break for Michigan there, where maybe the game is different if they don't score that bucket and it's not a 2-score game coming down the stretch. But this was a great game. Shire after basically said that, he's not surprised by this team and what they put together, and he expects them to be a team that can do great things as long as they stay focused. To beat Michigan, who's a wagon when it comes to the amount of depth they have depth on their front court, they have depth at the guard position. This was probably one of the worst games from Ellie Cadeau that you'll probably see. This was, my brother joked, this was UNC Cadeau. He transferred from UNC and now has become a star point guard for Michigan, but he was dreadful in this game. He had a big 3 late, but he was dreadful for most of this game. I think that if you're a team looking at trying to beat Michigan, I think Duke probably kind of gave you the blueprint. I think you have to get Maurer in foul trouble early, and I think you got cut off the head of the snake. If you can cut off their point guard play, because they're too good on every level. Like, you got that kind of point guard play plus that size is. And you're gonna have problems scoring against them. Even Duke had problems scoring against them. So you're gonna have to play you're gonna have to beat them in a rock fight. It'd be easier to beat them in a rock fight if their 7'3" center is off the floor. And you're also gonna have to really take away somebody from the team. And I think the best chance you got is probably Cadeau. He missed some open shots too, so that's part of that. It's just he didn't seem all that ready for the bright lights. And if you're Michigan, I think it's something that you probably look at and say, hey, this is something that we got to, I don't know, nothing you can do about it. You're not going to bench him. But so I would be a little concerned, a little perturbed that your All-American, arguably, or at least all Big Ten point guard just disappeared in a matchup that I think you thought was favorable to him. Caleb Foster's a good point guard for Duke. I don't think he's a superstar. Foster badly outplayed him in this game. Duke's guards overall badly outplayed the Michigan guards for most of this game. I think that these are two of the top teams in the country. Kendall asked him, are these the two best teams in college basketball? He said he thought they were. Now, Arizona had a very impressive win on the road without Koa Pete beating. They beat, what's the name? Houston, which was probably the signature win for Tommy Lloyd's, early career at Arizona in terms of a regular season game. They haven't had the greatest postseason success. I think Arizona's in that mix too. I think those are the three best teams. I think everyone else, we wondered if Houston's there. Iowa State, ironically, was the team that was put on the one line when they did their seedings, when they revealed the seedings coming up for the season. They do this every year, where they, a couple weeks prior to March Madness or throughout the season, they'll say, kind of like the college football playoff, hey, here's where the top 4 seeds are, and here's how we rank them. It was surprising to some that Iowa State had jumped Houston. This was prior to the loss that Houston took. They had jumped Houston to be that number 1 team. It didn't surprise me only because I think that Iowa State's a little better. I think Iowa State's front court's a little better. Their guards are not quite as good as Houston's guard, but Tatum Litsey is still like a veteran and a very good player. I had no problem with Iowa State being there. It was surprising to some. I think that was more the committee being like, we think Iowa State's a better team. So let's give credit to the better team. Let's put Iowa State there. So that's why I think they were there. But you can certainly make a case that Houston could be there as well. But this was a great game. I think if you're, if you're Michigan, you saw how much that team and how different they look when they don't have their top gun on the floor. If you don't got Maurer on the floor, it's a very different team. They're still athletic in the front court. They're still very good defensively, but that's essentially what Dusty May said at halftime when they were going into the game. They said, what's going on? How do you turn this thing around? They were only down by 2, which for them feels like a loss because they've been dominating everybody. He's like, we have to get guys on the floor. They have to stop getting in foul trouble. So then he had to start the second half without Maurer, which allowed Duke to kind of extend the lead, and then they got to play with the lead even when Maurer came back into the game for the rest of the way, and they were able to hold on. Phenomenal game. March Madness is going to be so fun. I can't wait for March Madness. I actually want to see if I can get ESPN's bracketology up to see where things kind of stand right now. Shout out to Joe Lenardi, Joey Brackets as we call him, in terms of where things stand with the brackets as we sit today. If we can, let's see. This is the bubble watch. I don't need the bubble watch. Oh, maybe here? Let's see. It's a weird way ESPN does this website in terms of how it shows you certain things. Nope, that's not at all. Oh, here it is. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna try to show you guys this in a second. Anybody watch that Duke Michigan game? I hope you guys are getting locked in, man. Like I've been talking a lot of college basketball on this show because I feel like there have been years where maybe you feel like, oh, college basketball has been so great. I'm like, this is the year you need to be watching, man. Like for nothing else, to know who the hell these guys are going to be when they get to the NBA, because this has been a fun year so far. So this bracket was as of Friday. So he'll probably have one again on. That would be Tuesday. So he does it every Tuesday and Friday. Now I would love to put this up if it will show you guys. Let's see. Right now it's black, but it's a black screen actually. So hoping that it will just take some time as this blue wheel, or rather wheel, goes by. Let's see. Nope, still nothing. Nope, it's still going. Let's see. Trying to be patient. Let's see. Will it show up? Not showing up yet. Let me try one more time. Click there and click back. Let's see. Will it show up now? Alright, still not showing much. Which sucks. I hate when this happens. Apologies to the live audience. Okay, so it's not showing me anything. But right now, this was as of Friday. He had, again, we also obviously had the actual, we actually had the actual number 1 seeds come out. So Iowa State right now had jumped Michigan. Now I'm curious, Iowa State losing to BYU, who shout out to BYU, man. Like, I think people thought they were cooked after Richie Saunders got hurt. You got a 40-minute effort from AJ DeBanza to win over the weekend and give Iowa State another loss. So I think Houston will jump back right back into that one line. AJ DeBanza, once again, guy's an absolute warrior, an absolute hooper, man. And the fact that when we're comparing him and Peterson, I just still think that it's, I don't know. I've been saying I would take DeBanza this whole time. Maybe people are coming more to my side on that. But you'll never have a question about whether or not that guy cares about basketball, whether he wants to play. That's just something I never will have to question. And right now, it feels like for DeBanza that, excuse me, for Peterson, it's a question you have to ask given where they are. So right now, he has Michigan as a 1, Duke as a 1, Houston as a 1, and Arizona as a 1. And with Houston, obviously, just winning the, they lost. Actually, so they lost over the weekend. So I'm actually very curious how this will shake things up. Could someone who's on a 2-line move up? It's not going to be Iowa State. Could UConn move up to a 2-line? They actually had dipped a little bit. Could someone like Purdue or Illinois? I think the 1 line will remain one of those teams in the Big 12, either Houston or Iowa State, even though both of them lost. My guess would be Houston because they just lost to a team that was ranked in the top 4. So that would be my assumption. That's where he's at right now. In terms of the last 4 buys and last 4 in, if you're a fan of these schools, be a little bit concerned. UCF, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Ohio State are the last 4 buys. Santa Clara, Missouri, UCLA, and USC are the last 4 teams in the field. So this is going to get very interesting as we get down to the nitty-gritty of this college basketball season. Again, I'm telling you, man, get on it. March is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a really fun season. This game being a true kind of test for both of these teams and getting it this early. I think both teams learned a lot about themselves. I think this is a good experience for Michigan. You know, thing about playing a conference play, sometimes you got to take conference play a little bit with a grain of salt. Not that you should just obviously throw out the window, but when you play in a certain conference, you're familiar with the team you're playing against. Both wins and losses, you kind of have to say, okay, they're going to play, though, in a game against a team they're not familiar with, a team they haven't scouted as much, that they don't have years and years of going up against in terms of knowing their style of play. They're going to be playing in random environments. It creates random results, which is why the March Madness, in my opinion, is still the best postseason we have. I'll take it over the NFL playoffs. I'll take it over the NBA playoffs. I'll take it over whatever you have. Baseball playoffs, college football playoff, I still take March Madness. The randomness of it is what makes it great. So I think Michigan getting out of the Big Ten and playing a team like Duke who presents different challenges. Now, it kind of became a Big Ten game. It kind of became, again, this kind of rock fight kind of game, which is games that they typically be comfortable in, but this was a team that had uber talent. They had an NBA top 3 pick kind of guy in Cam Boozer to match Michigan's front line, which typically it dominates every matchup. Michigan's front line is so good that usually they don't really concern themselves with whoever they're playing against. Yaxel Lindenborg was good in this first half, didn't have a great second half. And, Morris Johnson, I thought was pretty good in this game. Again, Adai Maurer was basically MIA for most of this game because of foul trouble, at least most of the first half. So, also a great test for Michigan that they were allowed to play this kind of game late in the season. Definitely fun stuff there. I'm curious. I gave you guys my takes on Love is Blind. I'm going to do it. So, before we get out of here, I'm telling you guys I've been watching Love is Blind. It is my favorite show on television probably at this point in time. I saw a slick comment from my guy Rod DeRay, who was like, when I was talking about superhero movies last week, he was like, do you watch any movies or shows for adults that are not geared towards children? I don't think Love is Blind damn sure ain't geared towards children. I can tell you that much. But I've been locked into the season, man. We got basically 3 more episodes until the season finale, so we'll have 2 more episodes drop this Thursday, and then 1 more the following week, and then we'll have a reunion at some point in time later on in this season. Now, apparently, they've already shot the reunion, which already is coming up with interesting, different things that are coming out of it. But these episodes had become kind of viral because of the conversation regarding a couple that actually seemed to be doing okay, but has now blown up. We came into this experiment with 7 couples, I'll remind you of, right? So we had Emma and Mike here. I'm going to move this up here. Emma and Mike, who they were the couple with this man, who we learned in these episodes has a very Italian family. Shout out to his family. Shout out to the Italians. It felt like I was back in New York City, to be honest. This is This is supposed to be a season of people from Ohio, and I don't know if just all Italian Americans have the same vibe, but these sounded like folks I grew up around and folks that I've known in my life. A very Italian family. He definitely wants a kid. This woman, Emma, has said that she does not want kids, but is now on the fence. They met families during they met the family during these episodes. It was very interesting because the Italian family very much is like, he wants a kid, right? He wants a kid. And that's very important to them. They have a big Italian family. Even his sister was like, my kid needs cousins. Like, it was, again, very Italian. And they were nice enough to this young lady. She seemed to take it well. She seemed to, again, be open to the idea of having kids. But the fact that she's still on the fence feels like that's kind of telling you what's going on. Then her family came in, and it was interesting because, of course, she's adopted. So she's adopted. She's Chinese-American, originally from China. And she was, adopted at 3 years old. And she was adopted by the white family. And the family very much was like, she doesn't want kids. She's always said she doesn't want kids. She's trying to couch it. Well, I said I was open. They're like, no, you didn't. You said you never wanted kids and all these different things. So he's trying to convince her and convince the family why she should have kids, which automatically feels still kind of uncomfortable. Feels like this couple should still break up. I don't know why they're still together. Her sister was talking about how, because her kids were there, Mike was like, hey man, like, you had kids. You don't regret it, right? And sister was like, I kind of regret it. Which was like insane, because then you see these little cute kids come out at the end of the conversation. I'm like, so you regret those kids? You just said that on national television? That's pretty crazy. But it was a truth moment. So we have this couple. I don't know really what's gonna happen with them. I assume they don't get married. I'm surprised they're still here, to be honest. So you got them. We got these two. Another couple that I'm not sure why they're still here, because bro on the right seems to not think that the beautiful woman on the left is all that pretty. And she keeps trying to tell him that you're not telling me I'm pretty. I don't know if you're attracted to me. And then he made the ultimate gaslighting move of being like, well, I can't tell you that you're pretty because you keep saying that I'm not telling you that you're pretty. And then it's going to make it sound like I'm just saying it because you said I should say it. So I'm not going to say it. And somehow it worked. You see some of this stuff, like, man, the gaslighting these men get away with is insane. That was one of the best/worst versions of gaslighting on the show I've ever seen. Like, a legitimate concern was brought up, a concern that's been brought up multiple times, that this man seems to not express at all any physical interest in this lovely woman. And when she brings it up, the first time he kind of danced around it by saying, hey, listen, I'm dealing with a lot, which was legitimate. His grandfather passed away during this process, and he almost left. So that was like, okay, strike one. We kind of understand. We let that one maybe slide, but this is starting to feel like maybe you shouldn't be here. And then bro does the ultimate gaslighting of like, well, I can't tell you that you're pretty when you keep asking me to tell you that you're pretty. So I'm not going to say it. And then she's like, no, what, you're right. I'm sorry. And I'm like, yo, that worked? How did that work? Anyway, this couple, again, I don't have much faith in. He met this young lady's family. This is, of course, this is Devontae and Brittany. I know I didn't give names out. The previous one was Emmett Mike, obviously. So that's Devontae on the right, Brittany on the left. He met her family, lied to their faces about how he got no issues, that he really loves their daughter. And I'm like, I don't know why you lying to these people. These people seem like nice people. So I don't have much confidence in them. We got Connor and I'll save Connor and Bree. I'll go to these two. This is still the most powerful couple. They seem to be going really strong. They don't get a lot of airtime still. Half of their video is shot on a cell phone. That's a selfie cell phone. I don't know what's going on. Something's going on with this. We'll eventually, I guess when the season ends, learn what the hell is happening. Like, why are they not living in the apartment with other people? Like, all these people, they get at their own apartment and they live together essentially in the same building, and or at least the same building complex. They're not in that part of the building. They seem to only do things by themselves. Half of their video, again, when they're visiting family or driving around, are videos that are shot on their own cell phones. So it seems like the production's not even around. So maybe they're having issues and we don't know it, and they're not just able to capture it. But it seems like these people are going good. You know, they had a pretty good conversation about what it'd be like raising, biracial kids and diversity and all different things, which is an important important conversation to have when you got a white woman and a black man. And they seem to come out of it really strong. It seemed like they had this great understanding. he met her mom. Her mom seemed to love him. So I think that's going fine. I think we're not worried about them. Amber and Jordan, I get to Amber a little bit later as well. Also didn't get that much airtime, but he did meet, this woman is a single mom. She met the father of her kid, and he said that went really well. She met some of his family. His family looks just like him, which I know is like duh, but still it's kind of funny to see, like, especially because he has like sisters and his mom, so it's like see female versions of like him, which is really interesting. But they seem to be going strong. I've seen no issues yet. Maybe issues will arise, but it seems like they're going okay. So that brings me now to before I get to the last bro, I'm just going to quickly do Connor and Bree. So this is our other couple here. She seems kind of mean, but he seems to kind of like it. Like, she's always nagging him. She's always telling him, like, she went to his house. He has a keg. I'll be honest, it was definitely a man's bachelor pad kind of place. Keg, video game setup that's much more elaborate than anything else in his home. Only beer in the fridge. And she seemed to keep putting him down for it, which, was it the most mature home I've ever seen? No. Again, who has a keg outside when you're 31 years old and a man cave plus a gaming room? Like, he has two. Like, his garage he doesn't use as a garage. He uses as a man cave. And then he has a game room also that's next to where he's set up for work. And his work setup is very, like, one computer, one tower, that's it. Game setup is like lights, multiple monitors, game chair. Like, he's clearly put at least $1,000, maybe $2,000, $3,000 into this setup. Maybe even more. So she kind of keeps putting him down for it, which is really kind of weird, but he seems to kind of be okay with it. He seems like a nice enough guy. I'm not sure about her, but as of now, there haven't been any issues, but I'll get to why that may come up in a second. I gotta get to these two. I talked about it a ton. So bro right here, his name is Alex. This is Ashley. Alex is a former soccer star. He talks about this a ton. He got drafted in the MLS Super Draft. He didn't get to play in the MLS because he had 4 knee surgeries. I looked up, bro. Seems like he was really good. He played at, I believe, Wake Forest. He was an All-American. So everything he's saying about that aspect of it is true. So I have to assume the knee surgeries are true. As someone who went to knee surgery, so I don't know why you would lie about that. But then comes the question of who is this man and why do we know so little about him beyond what he tells us? And why does what he tells us not make any sense? Because he gets to have a sit-down meeting with the family. They go out to dinner with her family, Ashley's family. Or Ashley's family, right? And her dad, we learn, is like this divorce lawyer of like 40 years. When I tell you the grilling this guy took from this divorce lawyer was... it was thorough. It was excellent questioning to the point where I'm like, I'm about to get married. I damn sure don't ever want to talk to a divorce lawyer. But I'm like, man, do you do any other kind of lawyer work? Because if you do any other kind of lawyer work that's not divorce lawyer work, I would hire you in a second, because your questioning of this man and slowly peeling away at what we clearly see is a facade and a dishonesty about this guy was riveting television. The only thing it seemed like these two seemed to be okay about and agree about was that they both loved Donald Trump. He also didn't vote, though, which that was weird. It was like, all right, he loved Donald Trump so much, but he didn't want to vote. And he was like, I would have voted for him anyway. I'm very conservative. Yeah, USA. And Dad seemed to like that. Nothing else seemed to go very well, though. What do you trade? What's your job? I'm a day trader. What do you trade? Australian coin. Okay. How are you in finance? I am. Where's your license? Oh, it's expired. Even something as simple as like, you know, my grandparents are very important to me. Oh, when did your grandfather die? Oh, he was 67. And then you say, well, my grandparents, they were married for 50 plus years. It's like, wait a minute, how can he be married for 53 years? And you say your grandfather died at 67 and he was a banker and your grandmother was like an accountant or something like that. I don't know where she was. None of this stuff made any sense. And then he comes out of it saying, the dad is like, I don't think honesty is this guy's strong suit. I'm like, then why? Like, I would be like, all right, then daughter, get bro out of here. You're not dating this guy. If I think honesty is not his strong suit, I guess he wants to just let her live her life. But there's that. So that was awkward. It's a very awkward conversation about then like roles in the household and how much sex is or isn't happening, and him not wanting to use contraception and all that got weird. So then that was an issue, and then there became an issue of his past relationships once she gets to meet his mom, and she learns through his mom again that Alex has had trouble with women who have been disloyal to him and have done him wrong. And when she starts to try to peel, oh, this is the woman he talked about with this person, right? And he's like, no, I'm talking about a different woman. And it's not that whatever exes he's talked to this girl about, it seems like there's a lot more of them, and they seem a lot more messy. So then she takes after her father, starts grilling him about it the next day. And again, answers don't seem to line up. Oh, I met this, I had a travel nurse that I met with that we were supposed to move to Australia, but then she didn't move. And we broke up in October. But then I asked an ex that was in Austin, and then I slept with that ex in September. She's like, wait a minute, so did you cheat on the girl that you broke up with in October? Well, no, we weren't exclusive, but you didn't say that initially. And then there's a third girl in there somewhere that he also had a relationship with that went wrong because she cheated on him. It's just a lot going on. A lot going on. I can't imagine this girl's going to say yes to this guy. He seems very shady. It seems like his work, he also has this, like, for a show that's based in Ohio, he's also like hell bent on getting out of Ohio as quickly as possible. Like, their whole conversations have been about like, so like, is your boss gonna let you move? Is your boss gonna let you move? Is your boss gonna let you move? And he's like, I have to talk to my boss. I want to move. I'm totally fine with moving, but like, I need to talk to my job to see if there's possibilities, if I can actually like work in my same field, in my same company at another location. He's very badly wants to go to Arizona or Florida because he's like, these states align with me politically and they have good weather and good golf. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not sure what this is going on, but okay. Like, and she's like, I will ask when I get a chance. He's like, well, I have a job offer for a soccer job in Florida that I can accept. Which I'm like, okay, but you said you were a day trader and you also said that you were in finance. Why are you coaching soccer? Which maybe is what he wants to do, but he keeps stressing that like he has a job and he has work, but it doesn't seem to be all that clear. He also keeps saying he has these job offers that are literally in his inbox. Which I'm like, then why aren't you just accepting them? Like, I don't know, like what a job offers in your inbox? You're not responding to it. Like, what's going on? So I don't know. Everything about this story seems weird. I don't expect this couple to go very far as well. We're gonna have a tough time finding married couples, I think, out of this. I think Christine and Victor will probably be our main couple that comes out of this. But we got to go to the last couple. We have to talk about these two. This gremlin on the right, this guy is a war criminal when it comes to Love is Blind. Bro on the right, this is a show that has produced many, many villains. Some villains have even been on shows like Traitors and other different kind of shows because, you know, it's just the nature of the beast with this show is that you end up showing your ass at some point, given the pressure of being filmed 24 hours a day and, you know, trying to do this insane thing where you're trying to get engaged to somebody from behind a wall after talking for 2 weeks and then get married in 30 days. It brings the worst out of a lot of people, which is why it's great television. I don't know if this is even the worst of this guy because it seems like what we've heard from now exes that have come out of the woodworks is that he's kind of a jerk. But you see this woman. So this is Jessica and Chris. Now, I don't really try to make so much of this about like physical looks or whatever. A, because I'm engaged. And B, also, like, I'm just not into like talking about someone's physical looks. But I don't mind calling bro a gremlin because of what he said to this lovely woman who's an infectious disease doctor. She has this. They meet. They go to her house that's outside Columbus. She has this beautiful house that's 4 bedrooms. This is a great. All these like Love is Blind shows, by the way, these shows that are located outside of major cities, like the Charlottes of the world. Some of these others, like they're great for like commercials for real estate because you're like, how does this rando? I mean, she's a doctor, so it makes a little sense. But some of the other people also have very nice houses. How does this rando have this like 3-4 bedroom palace that would cost $5 million in New York City or $5 million in Chicago or some of these other bigger cities? It's like, man, maybe I should move to Columbus. But she's got this beautiful house. It seems like she's got a great life. She's, a very attractive woman. It seems like she's got everything going for her, right? And it seemed that way to her too. Until we got to a conversation they had on their couch in the kitchen, in their apartment. By the way, my guy Bob Custer, good morning. This was on a talk show in Australia or Ohio. The show is based in Ohio, which is why bro talking about his time in Australia became very confusing, and the fact that there was a woman involved. I'll go back to him maybe a little bit later, but they have a conversation on the couch. This is Jessica and Chris, and he goes, I'm just not feeling it physically. Like he dipped, by the way. Like they got back to their apartment. He's like, yo, like this is a lot for me. I need to decompress. I'm gonna go just hang out with my friends for like 2 nights. Which is kind of like, okay, seems a little weird. And it didn't text her throughout the whole time. First she's like, okay, like it's a lot. I understand if you need to go there, because they aren't living in their actual homes. They're living in like some apartment to kind of simulate living together. So she's like, okay, I understand this is a lot. Totally, I understand, get it, no worries. Not concerned yet. But then he also doesn't text her the whole time. Like basically doesn't communicate with her at all. So these 48 hours where she doesn't really know what he's been doing or where he's been. Shows up, sits her down on the couch, is like, yeah, I don't know if I can get there physically with you. Which, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. She, to me, seems like a perfectly attractive young woman. But, okay, sucks, but we've seen this story before. Seems weird because I'm not looking at Ryan Gosling here or, Austin Butler. But whatever, okay, fine, we can go on with that. But obviously, he's trying to get out of the words of what he means by the fact that he can't get there physically with this woman, and he goes like, well, when I think of the women I date, typically I go for people who work out all the time and who do Pilates every day and who do CrossFit. Like that's the kind of woman I'm into. So she's like, a different kind of body is what you're asking for? And he's like, kind of, maybe, I don't actually know. So you're like, so that's what you want, a different kind of body? Is that what we're doing here? Yeah, I guess, I don't know. And it's like, again, you see that picture. She seems like a perfectly fit woman. She told him, by the way, this was something that they had a conversation about in the pods, that he was a big workout guy. He's like, I'm not a workout warrior. Like, I'm a doctor. I spend most of my time at the hospital, which is what he says in this conversation. I spend most of the time at the hospital. I'm not a workout warrior. Like, I don't have time to be a workout warrior. But also, like, she's, like, conventionally fit. Like, does that look like someone that needs to be living in a gym for 24 hours a day? Like, she looks fine. For whatever fine means. And I'm not into, like, judging anybody's body, but this is what this guy was doing. Essentially, he was like, oh, because you're not a CrossFit girly or a Pilates girl, I need to end my engagement with you. Well, he said I wasn't breaking up with her. But once you tell someone I can't get involved with it physically with you because I'm not attracted to you because you're not a CrossFit girl, then your relationship is over. So she ends it. She's like, well, I guess this is it because you just came to me with this bull crap. I almost cursed there. This bull crap. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I guess I got to get to a Pilates class now because he doesnn't like my body. She's again, an infectious disease doctor. What else? What else is she supposed to do? So this ended up being a disaster. That relationship ends. There's always this mixer that happens towards the end of the season when all the couples get together along with people that were in the pods but didn't get engaged in anybody. They all meet for a mixer. So they broke up like 2 days before, the day before. Bro shows up, hammered, and now talking about how I need to text, first of all, I'm going to start shooting my shot at this girl, Bree. That was the girl I mentioned earlier. I moved this down so you can see. So remember this girl. This was his number 2 choice. He also said to her that I was thinking about my number 2 choice, Bree, during this entire time, who's up there on the top left. So again, you want to talk about like scumbag. Comparing her to someone else he already dumped apparently, and saying that that's the person I think I may be more into. And during this whole party, he's telling people, oh, this girl's hot. I got to talk to this girl. Mind you, this girl on the top right, but on the left side, the orange dress, she's fully engaged. And this little gremlin who's about 5'6", 5'7", who's talking about how I need a CrossFit girl, I need this and that. he's now going off about how, oh, I need to find a way to talk to this girl who's there with her fiance. And he's bugging. He's telling people, oh, the sex I had with this girl was some of the worst sex I've ever had. I mean, just really trying to embarrass this woman who did nothing to him other than love him. It seemed like unconditionally. She didn't have no issues with him. Truly scumbag. And again, he's talking to Bree about being like, and then now he's talking crap about the fiance being like, oh, that guy's too submissive. You need a more dominant man. You need a guy with a Schwab account, which I'm like, what are we even talking about now? Especially when one of these guys apparently $300,000 in debt. I don't know what he's talking about needing a Schwab account and stuff. But it was an ugly scene. Ugly scene. Great episodes. Great episodes. Really enticing television. But you feel bad when you see people, I think the young doctor, Miss Jessica, I think she'll be fine. I think that she, she's already said, oh, people are in my DMs. Hey, yeah, you're a young, beautiful woman who's a doctor who has a lot of money. Most people would probably want that. I don't know what this gremlin's looking for. I guess he wants, Rhea Ripley, or he wants like Bianca Belair. Like he wants someone that's, I guess, again, could be a WWE star, which is bizarre, again, considering he apparently is this workout warrior. Because there are scenes where you're in bathing suits and you're in swimming or you're at the beach. We've seen this guy's body. He seems okay. He doesn't look like a workout warrior. He doesn't look like a guy that's a CrossFit like Jesus, as we call Seth Rollins in WWE. He seems fine. And again, I'm only talking about bodies because he's the guy that brought it up. Like, he doesn't seem like he works out that much. It doesn't seem like he's that much more fit than this girl that he claimed wasn't fit enough for him. And he has the nerve to talk about how I don't know what's going on, and I brought up that other girl real quick, Bree, only because he's telling all this nasty stuff about this girl to like all her friends at this mixer, and this girl, Bree, is the only girl who, by the way, he's also saying all this stuff about, oh, I'm interested in you, like I think that we should have been together, all this stuff. Like he's saying all this crap about Jessica, who's supposed to be her friend in this. And she doesn't really like say, yo, you're disgusting, get out of my face, or yo, like you're a loser, you suck. She's just like, oh, I'm not here to pick sides, or oh, I understand what you're saying. It was weird. If I was Connor, I would be running for the hills if I saw this conversation that these two had, where this guy who's clearly drunk, who's saying the most vile, disgusting things about his ex-fiance, who they just dumped 2 days before. Mind you, the next day or that night, he's taking pictures of himself at a strip club, posting it on Instagram, and buying followers so people can follow him on Instagram. This is an ultimate loser. Just loser in every sense of the word. You're actually entertaining this fool when he's talking about, I'm not a dominant man. Man, get out of here. I would be done with homegirl. So that's how I viewed it, man. But I love this show. It's entertaining television. We got 2 more episodes of this, or 3 more episodes. 2 more this week, and then the finale the following week. So we'll see. I can't believe we still have 6 of these couples that are still left. Like, I would have thought most of these couples would have been gone by now. But we're going to have a bachelorette party and bachelor party because we see the previews of it. So we're going to have more from these people. It seems like we're going to have several of them going to wedding days. So I'll give you guys the update. If you guys want to jump in on Love is Blind, now's the time. Because I will be probably doing another update sometime later this week or next week talking about these episodes. One of these days, man, I got to see if I can get Andrea here to do like a Love is Blind recap with me, so I can bounce off some of these ideas with you guys. But I know I got traders in the pocket here. I'm gonna save traders maybe for later because it's already been a super long episode of 40 Days and 40 Nights, man. But it's been a lot of fun, guys. This has been a fun episode. Good way to start the week. 40 Days and 40 Nights, streaming live multiple places, including on X, EJ_Stewart, where you'll find me on X. Streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ, where you'll find me on Instagram. And streaming live on YouTube, New Generation Media. Of course, all episodes of these podcasts go up on our podcast channel. Just search New Generation Podcast Network. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can get the audio versions of the show. So if you're driving, if you're on the go, if you're on the train, whatever the case may be, and you can't watch the show, you can always catch all audio versions of this show. This episode, because something's wrong with my hard drive I just saw, we're streaming live, which is fine, which is good. This episode may be cut short because of something. My hard drive has been bugging out recently, which has been a little annoying. It says that the hard drive disconnected, so part of this episode may not be fully there. I hope the rest of it is there. If not, we'll figure out a way to get all of it out there, so don't worry about that. But either way, we'll have at least some of this episode up on our podcast channel. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you can. Also, if you can, like I said, subscribe and give us a 5-star review if you can. Even if you don't listen to the podcast, but you watch this show, so you know how good the show is. You know it's a dazzling program. Go over to our podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a 5-star review and give us a little written review. Tell how much you love this show. All of it's greatly appreciated. My guy Bob in the chat talking about Love Is Blind. How much should I show you? How much should I show you think of scripted though? I guess it's a little bit of typo there. He said how much of the show is scripted. This show I don't think is. So a lot of reality shows are scripted to some degree. The nature of this show, some of it just simply can't be that scripted. I think a lot of this is pretty real, partially because like for a lot of these people who have these terrible moments on this show, it simply doesn't make sense for them to have these terrible moments on this show as young singles who are trying to eventually get married or have a kid or do whatever, because now that hurts your case. Also because these are real people end up having real consequences. Like one guy, for example, I mentioned Steven from a couple weeks ago. I mentioned how he has all these sexual assault allegations now. Like he's suing like for defamation for these women that are accusing him, because he's like, I got fired from my job or I got suspended. So it really doesn't, like, you don't make enough money from this show. You don't become famous enough from this show to want to say I'm gonna be a scumbag and a villain so that I can get famous or I can get rich. You kind of become infamous and you definitely ain't gonna get rich. So I don't like, there's elements of a show that like, they have to take you on dates. You have to do X, Y, and Z just so that they can film something. There's a structure to the show for sure. That part of it is scripted. What's scripted in regarding like how these people act, that part of it I don't think is scripted. I think that part of it is very real, and it's why you see people crashing out the way they do. I get what you're saying though, and he makes is that show all scripted? I think was the point you make it. I don't think it is. Watch it, check it out for yourself. What I will say, I do think there are people who get on this show who are not serious about getting married. That is definitely happening. That's not something that's scripted. That's somebody that's lying to themselves about what they actually want out of life. That's to me a whole different conversation. I wouldn't consider that scripted television. That's somebody who got into something realizing, oh crap, I probably shouldn't be doing this, and they're finding their ways out of it. But oftentimes they're with people who are devastated because they actually want to get married or they fell in love with this person. Like that is what these people will say. A lot of people will also say, hey, like I didn't think I wanted to get married, but I also did this experiment. I fell in love with this person, and then when I got out of it, then I realized, oh my God, like I'm about to make a big mistake, and then they want to jump out. So that part of it, no, I don't think it's scripted. But you did say, it makes a good point here though, Bob. He asks, remember the Jerry Springer conversations? Yeah, this is not the scandal aspect of it and stuff. It gets messy. It's never like Jerry Springer messy. Not really. Sometimes it gets there to the point where you're like, whoa, what is going on here? Like, one guy didn't tell his fiance that he had kids that were young of age that he wasn't like really taking care of. And he tried to explain that they were sperm babies, but then of course the mother of those children comes out and says, no, we were in a relationship and we broke up because you were a deadbeat dad, but they were not sperm babies, but we're in a relationship and all that. So that was probably the most weird of the scandals on this show. But no, typically it's not like Jerry Springer where it's like, oh, here's like, are you the father? Or that's not really usually what the show's about. It is really young people who are trying to figure it out, who are not in love, who try to do this thing. The problem becomes, again, these men that they put on there. It is, I mean, there are plenty of young women on the show who also show their ass a lot. Again, I think this girl Bree didn't do good because she has a fiance and she's talking to the guy who's saying all this crazy stuff about her friend, saying all this crazy stuff about her fiance, talking about, oh, I would have been a better choice for you. She's just standing there being like, well, I understand what you're saying. There are women who look terrible in the show too. But in terms of like an ad for like what modern dating is like for women trying to find men, ooh, it's bad. It's bad out there. It's bad. I mean, and what I told Andrea, I was like, I hate to be the guy who's like, oh, the good guys always lose or whatever. But it is also a bad sign for the good guys out there that the infectious disease doctor, who is supposed to be this brilliant woman who has all this money, falls for a 5'6" gremlin. Again, I'm gonna call him a gremlin because he's an ugly person on the inside for what he told this woman and how he embarrassed her in front of all these people, talking about how she's terrible at sex and all these terrible different things. It's like, if you're a good guy, you're like, yo, I tried to talk to the doctor and she gave me no time, and then she ends up with this clown. You're like, wow, I must really have no shot. So it's not great for that aspect of it either, but for just general men, whether it was Alex, and I got into a lot of his like lying and deceit that was happening. But then there was also a lot of like just like condescending remarks come in, like when she started talking about how she was sexually frustrated. Because the issue with Alex is that he also doesn't really like that girl, that blonde girl I was showing you about. I'll show her one more time. Like the issue that they're having is that he's actually not that into her, and he can't say it. And so she's like, oh, well, like, we're not being intimate anymore. I don't know what's going on. And then he flipped that into, well, I don't know if you're on your cycle or what's going on. And I'm not trying to get pregnant. I don't want to get trapped. And he's saying, he was just a lot of, and then when she's like, well, I feel frustrated. He's like, well, when we do it, is it good? Like, he's a jerk. These guys are jerks. A lot of these guys are, not all of them, but between Alex, Devontae, and bro, I just mentioned that little gremlin guy. These guys are the worst. These are bad reflections of them. And this is not how they typically are. How they're acting on television is really gross. So it's not a good, absolutely not a good ad for, hey, how are they single men out there good for these women? Are they good for your daughters? If I had a daughter who was of these women's age and these are the guys they were talking to, I would be, oh, man. It's rough out there. It's definitely rough out there, man. But I love the show. I'm going to keep watching it. I'm going to keep talking about it. You guys get on, man. Get on. Watch a couple episodes so you can follow with me, so you can get the comments. Give me your takes. I want all the Love is Blind takes. I want to shout out Two Black Girls, One Rose. That's a podcast that me and Andre listen to, my fiance. They do a phenomenal job recapping the show. Shout out to some sports people you may know. ESPN's Mina Kimes and David Dennis, who actually was getting after a couple weeks ago. But shout out to David Dennis. I was getting after him about his All-Star Game takes. But they do a phenomenal podcast talking about both Love is Blind and Traders, which I hope to get to later on today. They do a great job. I was kind of like interested. I was like, oh, how is this podcast? And they're both great. And they have great takes and fun conversation about the shows. So there's great podcasts on this. So if you guys want to catch up where I'm at, we got a couple weeks left. So I certainly will be talking about, I damn sure will be talking about the finale next week. My last week of 40 Days and 40 Nights, I will be talking about the finale. So be ready for that. All right, though. I think that's going to do it, man. Thank you guys so much again for checking out 40 Days and 40 Nights. Like I said before, as I pull up my music, be sure to check out all the shows you catch on YouTube, New Generation Media, also on the podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network. Be sure to also check out everything we do here on New Generation Media. Again, Hero Talk episode dropped just yesterday, so it's on YouTube and on our podcast channel. Be sure to look out for that. And of course, follow me on social media, EJ_Stewart on X, and actually EJ on Instagram and TikTok. That'll do it for now. Love you guys. See you later. Evan Roberts joins me later at 6:30 p.m. That'll be a lot of fun. Be there or be square. I'll see you soon.